There it is. Perfect. Yes, folks. Hello, 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 and happy Tuesday to y'all. It is, what day are we at? It is Tuesday, the 6th of May. It's a great day today. Let me get my stuff situated, folks. Welcome to the Eyes and Ears Show. I'm your host, Charles, of course. The Eyes and Ears, where we use our eyes and our ears to break down everything around us, whether it's, the law, whether it's occult type stuff, whether it's, deep dives into like histories, mysteries, whatever. Today's episode is definitely on the occult side of things, and I'm very happy to have very special guests to just kind of dissect a lot of things from different angles. So let me get some people up here, and I'll let them introduce themselves. I'll let them do their thing. Here we go. Everybody's up here. Heidi Luv, JJ Vance. Thanks for joining, guys.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. Very nice to have you for sure. I was just chatting with JJ before everybody got on, and very happy to have y'all. You guys are just awesome. I like your content. I like what you guys offer. So it's, cool to get your take on some of the stuff here tonight.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Great to join you. Appreciate the invite.
Yes, so let's just start off. Let's do a nice little easy intro. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves, where you're coming from, what you do, but most importantly, what got you to where you're at today and what got you to this point.
Go ahead, Heidi.
Okay, I was waiting. You're on top, so
Go ahead.
It's like I just saw you, JJ. No, we just got off another show.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
I am Heidi Luv. I'm of the Unfiltered Rise podcast. I'm everywhere podcasts are served. I do have my own website, unfilteredrisepodcast.com. You will see me on YouTube from time to time, but it's not always on my channel because it gets spicy. I am in a cult reject, which I'm excited and happy to be. And that's why I'm here with JJ, because he's one as well. And so thanks to Nick, boss, we appreciate you. And or shall I say cardinal boss? Oh, wait.
Right.
So we've got lots of silly jokes, right? I got out of Mormonism. I got out at about 34 years old and started talking about it. Never thought I'd do a podcast. Never even knew how to upload a podcast. And I cried the first 8 episodes because I didn't know what I was doing. And I just like to talk. So it worked out.
Awesome. Yeah. So it sounds like you're coming from a very unique background, very unique perspective where this is new to you, but you're just speaking your truth. And today's episode is very I guess specifically geared towards that, like truth and what is truth and like lifting that veil. So it sounds like your veil has been lifted in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's been about 2 years now that I've been doing this, and it's just a journey I never knew I would love, but I'm happy that I did it, and it's been a wild ride. So
Yeah, awesome. I highly appreciate that. That's really cool. So JJ, what about you, buddy?
Oh, no, it's great to join you again. Appreciate the invite, Charles. It's great to join you, Heidi, as always. JJ Vance, having some interwebs connectivity issues apparently right now, but can y'all hear me loud and clear?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, I'm coming a little slow on my end. So, yeah, JJ Vance, host of OpGCD, also a fellow occult reject with Heidi, but perhaps more notably, not the vice president. So, I am also a former Mormon, coincidentally enough. Spent first 22 years of my life there in the with the mothership. So, I actually, I like to look at it from the good and the bad. I like to blame the Mormons for my conspiratorial worldviews, and their very kind of Gnostic upbringing I had within their systems. But yeah, I've been doing Operation GCD here, getting, being a garbage can dude for about actually 9 years next week. So it's been an ongoing interest of mine to just dive into these deeper issues and gain a better understanding of our world. We can look at things and point to groups and activities and say, well, that ain't right. That's not how things are supposed to work. But, even at the end of the day, I continue finding myself striving to understand the connecting principles and how things really operate in this world. So, but that's kind of what I like to do. I do a lot of ancient alien cargo cults, I'm not a true crime guy, but I dive into the topic of murder and a lot of crime because I spent 20 years in the U.S. Air Force military police.
You were a police guy, security
Just
forces.
security forces. There you go. Yep. Yes, sir. So you're familiar.
I was a admin guy, health admin.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that four N maybe 4N?
I was a 4 Alpha.
Oh, 4 Alpha. There we go. Okay. Yes, sir.
Very
All right.
awesome.
Nice. When did you serve?
So I was 13 to 21. Okay. 21. I was 8 years. Yeah. Nice. And then I got out. So COVID happened. I was over by the Capitol, and I left like before they mandated the stuff, but as like masks were mandatory, people were getting, vaxxed on their own, all that. It was the early days of all that.
I got out just in time. February 2019, I retired. So.
Oh, nice. Okay. Oh, dope. Very cool.
Yeah, I spent the last 7 years in reserves. So I did 13 active, 7 reserves. Some time as a civilian there in the headquarters in DC, but as a bureaucrat, didn't last long. I don't have a lot of bureaucratic values. I mean, I certainly didn't mix well in that system. So
yeah. That's so true. It's like, it's interesting to see how a lot of people go in, like you see a trajectory of different types. There's like people that go in and just do the full 20 plus.
Sure.
Like I've been in for 40 years. It's like, damn, dude. And then you got people who are like, yeah, I've been in for like 5 and this is just not for me. It's like, I'm good at it. I'm cool at it, but this is just not my jam. It's not my jam.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
They kind of got me with that too. I did 6 years, my first enlistment as an MP, and got out for like 60 days, and they pulled me back in as a logistics planner.
Oh, wow.
I did that for a few years, and then the security forces pulled me back in. So
nice. Yeah, very dope. Very cool, man. So, well, you know what, y'all, on the show, what I like to do is just, of course, eyes and ears, kind of see what's going on out there, whether it's news. And I do Monday AM wake ups with Steve Poikinen, where we just,
nice.
Talk crap about everything we see and just kind of break things down and have different people on to do the same and just kind of get in the pit and just kind of mash out. So I take it from a more like, I try to truly break things down. So I think y'all do the same. So I would like to share. Let's start on a light note. We can start somewhere nice.
Well, if I may ask, Charles, how did you get here? Sounds like you may have had quite a journey here to reach where you're now hosting the Eyes and the Ears podcast and doing some of that AM wake up. I caught some of your all's AM wake up the other day, so I enjoyed that. So seems like you have an interesting perspective on things.
Appreciate it, dude. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
I would say prior to the military, just growing up, I was, I wasn't born in the States. I was born overseas and I moved a lot. So it's like just seeing different perspectives growing up, kind of being an outsider, like kind of the odd one out, kind of, trying to pick people's brains. I've always been I'm like a blue by nature. I'm a Pisces. I'm a socialite. I'm a, whatever floats your boat kind of guy.
Sure.
So I've always been curious about spiritual things, about mysteries, about something more than just, what's in front of us, like whether it's cannabis and like that, just raising the vibration. So it's always been there. So I've always asked questions. I've always doubted what I've been told. I've always, kind of fought back in some regard. I've always tried to discern things on my own. So I'd say that's what kind of on here, man.
Nice. A lot of fish fan too, huh?
A lot of good, bad, all that.
That's awesome. I'm having some issues again here. No, that's awesome. You're a fish fan too, huh?
I am. Are you a fish fan? I don't know a lot of. I'm a huge fish fan. Yes, I don't know a lot of other fish fans out there, but yes. Heidi, do you like fish? What do you listen to?
I listen to a lot of old gangster rap.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm old, and I also love Dirty Heads. That's like one of my main. So.
Oh, that's a great band.
Yeah, I love Dirty Heads. We always go to their concert every single year. It's like my thing. Yeah.
I've seen them a couple times.
They're good. They're good, even like in person. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I like fish. I'm also a bootleg Vermonter, so they're a big part of the Burlington culture there.
Now, what fish? What's your era? Like, what's your go-to fish era?
Oh, I never really got too much into their music. I think it's great as part of the town's culture there in Burlington. I was more of a deadhead myself growing up.
Well, okay, so let's ask you that. What's your dead era? What's the dead that you enjoy?
Oh, I would say honestly their later stuff, but it's probably because that's what I was more accustomed to when I was growing up and whatnot. I mean, obviously they weren't really a hit kind of band, but their Touch of Grey was their top 10 single. The only time they hit a top 10 single, and that was in my younger years. That's when I first discovered, the Dead was through that music video.
Yeah.
That's my husband. He loves the Dead. I'm telling you. You and him would be friends, JJ.
Nice.
And that's how we opened up the show. We opened up with Clementine from Eureka Municipal Auditorium, 1968. So we kind of opened up with some Fish there, but kind of ease into the things. I think Fish is, the MK Ultra thing, the acid test, the huge part of that culture, the counterculture, the shaking things, making waves, and kind of waking a lot of people up and breaking free from the CIA thing. And so shout outs to the Dead and all those guys. So, but let me do the first story here. I think y'all would appreciate this. What else I got to shout out? All right, here we go. Cool. Here we go. So today in history, okay, I'm a fan of history. I'm a fan of looking back because I feel like nothing's new under the sun. Like we see a lot of repeats. If we look at, news or events, dates, times, people get into numerology, of course, all being part of the occult. I think history, looking back and seeing what's happened, can shape where things are going. So this is today, May 6th in history. So 1937, the Hindenburg disaster. Okay, so we had that go down on this day, 1937, while landing in Lakehurst, New Jersey, on its first transatlantic crossing of the year. The German dirigible Hindenburg burst into flames and was destroyed, killing 36 of the 97 persons aboard. So there's that happened. And, this is like the time of alternative flights. The Wright brothers weren't out there like that, like we were trying different things. We were still like trying different stuff. But then it's like you have these disasters that just really monopolize how things are done, A couple other things. 2004, the final episode of the television sitcom Friends aired and was watched by more than 52 million viewers. So I'm sure numbers people out there have something to say. 1998, Steve Jobs introduced Apple's first iMac, a personal computer that became hugely successful and helped revive the struggling company. And we see today how AI is just everywhere, and how the push is for like digital, everything digital. So I don't know. What do y'all think about a couple of the first things there? There's one specific, but what do y'all think about those in terms of like looking back, meaning to things, symbolism, because that is part of like occult, esoteric way of seeing things, which we'll go deeper into. But what are y'all thoughts on those couple things?
Well, my first thought on the Hindenburg was when you're mentioning the Wright brothers, this was a very, pivotal point in flight that, these large, dirigibles there were used for, a lot of commercial flight, a lot of getting to and from even Europe. Right. So, this was a, if you're going to change that system, you got to make it look bad. Right. I think. And the Wright brothers, if you ask me, that's some mound magic. So they did all their training on mounds in the east side of Dayton. It's known as Huffman Prairie. It's part of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base today.
Yep. Ohio.
So I think a lot of that might be rooted in some mound magic, if you ask me.
Yeah, Howard Hughes was their family, by the way, with the Wright brothers, just so you guys know. But yeah, I do think it was to change the way we fly, and also NASA now has complete overtaken all of the helium that we have now. So we won't be going back to that anytime soon.
No,
friends thing. I mean, just shows me that we were all pretty bored then. We must have been bored.
Right. Have you ever watched that without the laugh track? They're a bunch of psychopaths.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean? It changes the dynamic of the show altogether.
Terrible.
Yeah, Friends is it makes you think like, sitcoms and just television programming. Like, what's the point of this? Like, we sit there and we watch this to be programmed, to be like pacified. You're watching Friends on TV. I'll be there for you. And it's like, what? Huh? What?
And look at the impact it had on culture as far as sitting around in coffee shops and the explosion of Starbucks, what I like to call the shrine of the fish goddess.
And the haircut, Rachel's haircut, man, that went
Yeah.
crazy with the women. I remember that.
Yep.
Everybody had that hairdo.
Yeah, it really
was like a
shaped culture
thing.
for many years, right?
It totally did. Yep.
Oh, look at that. The last episode of I Love Lucy aired. Hugely popular show which starred Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, who was considered one of television's landmark sitcoms.
Desi Arnaz, part owner in the Sirhan Horse Ranch. That's real. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, they were a major power family there in Hollywood because they owned that production company and the studio in which they filmed it in. So they filmed a lot of stuff there, and they ended up selling it off to Bob Cocaine Evans' boss, Charles Bluthorn, head of Paramount, or the owner of Paramount.
Wow.
Right in the late '60s, right after the show ended.
Remember the name of that ranch, JJ? The Sirhan, the occultic one where he got introduced in the occult.
Yeah, we just talked about that too.
We did.
I don't recall it off the top of my head. Was it Double R?
He definitely was a part owner in it. I'll look it up, but yeah. It was very interesting. It was where Sirhan was introduced to a lot of his cult beginnings there. So
I love these little connections where it's like it's like once you look at where people come from, like I did a thing with Seven Seas. I did a show with him, and I mean, he does his, his connections, his maps and all that, but everything aside, you can always find something with somebody. Like it never fails,
right?
It never fails.
Yep.
That's kind of what I was getting at before. We can point to these things. We don't really understand the organizing principles or really the environment in which these things really operate in. We're told society operates X, Y, and Z, but we can see it operate in ABC. So, for all we know, there's a much more extensive network, that exists just beneath the surface level of society. That's kind of how I view it.
Well, all right, JJ. So let's kind of get into that then. So another event that took place today in history, okay, was the World's Fair of 1889.
Oh.
Let me kind of get into this. Like the World's Fair of 1876 in Philadelphia, the exhibition of 1889 in Paris celebrates a centenary, that of the French Revolution. So 100 years after the French Revolution, similar to that of the U.S. with the independence and the Declaration and the da-da-da-da-da-da. It is directed by Jean-Charles Alphand, engineer in the city of Paris and close collaborator of Baron Haussmann. Do y'all know who Baron Haussmann happens to be?
Never know. No, sir, not familiar.
Well, he was just the high-ranking Mason in Paris who was initiated into one of their largest lodges, and he was like a constable type. He was like a senator, a government official. So think like a congressman, Freemason. So he helped put this thing together. No big deal. Just saying. The exhibition
was this the Charles Van interject. Which lodge was this? Was this because the French one is one of the most interesting to me, and it's the ancient.
You know what it was? I took the note on this. It was Alsace-Lorraine Lodge.
Do you know which brand of Freemason that might be?
Alsace-Lorraine. He was he was initiated into the lodge, and I'm sure I can find that in there. But yeah, he was a Mason. Homeboy was a Mason.
Because there's a French version of Freemasonry that was introduced by the Scottish around 1720 by a fellow by the name of Andrew Ramsay. And he Frenched up his name, became friends with Sir Isaac Newton and other characters alleged to be part of that old famous Priory of the Sion there in France. But they started something called I'll get back to you on it. It's a different flavor of Freemasonry. Most Freemasonry, they have a Bible and whatnot in the center. You take the oaths on and whatnot. This one's just got an empty book.
Interesting.
It's not the Martinists, is it? No.
No, I'm terrible. It's ancient something. I'll get back to you in one moment.
Not the Orient, right? That's not French. Not the Grand Orient. Those
the Grand Orient. There you go, sir. Yes, the ancient order of the Grand Orient. Yes, sir.
There it is.
And Grand Orient Freemasonry. That's it.
I'm pulling up Homeboy's credentials here, and I will get it. But Homeboy was a Mason. It's very interesting. But so on this day in history, this is what went down. This is what they did. They set up the World's Fair, of course, in France, specifically Paris, for the 100-year anniversary of the revolution. Now, look at some of the things they had there at the time. And so what they do say is that a reconstruction of the Bastille was erected and the Republic showed the result of its first years. After the defeat of the Franco-Prussian War, the turmoil of the Commune, and the severe economic crisis, it was able to build a vast colonial empire, a powerful industry, and is again one of the great European powers. It talks about the, where are we? Let me skip to this right here. Jumps and talks about the Eiffel Tower, right? Okay, and how this was the exhibition, like this was the opening, this was the event. The scale of the 1888 World Fair was to be much bigger than the previous ones, and it remained particularly famous in the history of the capital for its main architectural realization, the Eiffel Tower. So that's the big thing. And we still see the tower. And of course, what do y'all believe this tower to be? Is it just this exhibit just to show France's might in their, hey, vive la France, oh, or is it something else?
Oh, Heidi, I'll let you go on that one first.
I'm definitely saying this is Tesla energy harnessing, my opinion. Yeah, I've been there, and it's huge. And there's just no way that that's just for an exhibition. Like, no.
Right.
I
concur. JJ? It's hard to believe a structure of that size and that monumental effort serves just one purpose of decoration. To me, it's a utilitarian purpose, and some sort of energy production or antenna seems to be the most, apt description of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of the World's Fairs, we're about to kick off ours here in good old America on Memorial Day. I don't know if people know that, but Trump's World's Fairs is starting on Memorial Day weekend. So
nice.
It will go for the traditional amount of time. And I think that's a full year of celebration. He'll be hitting all different spots. It's not in one area, it's in multiple cities. It's already all pre-planned out. So welcome to your golden age, peeps. Hopefully we don't all get sick and die and then, blow everything up and set it on fire and build it all over again. Oops.
Well, that's a good point. Donald Trump being a member of the Society of the Cincinnati by virtue of being a president of the United States.
Yeah,
that Alfan fella you were just talking about, he's a French member. When you said he was a French engineer, the World's Fair guy there, I was like, oh, I gotta look this up real fast. Yeah, he's a member. He's part of the French chapter of the society. They're big on the engineerings and the maths and the surveying and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, all part of that crew, all part of that thing. Wow. So yeah, it's all that connected thing. I think the tower is just like, going to the States, going to the Chicago World's Fair, of course, all the fairs in Buffalo, in New York. Sure. I'm in upstate New York. That's right here. We had Buffalo with the Tesla technology. That's just right there. It's like, what happened? And this is like what kind of made me think about that veil.
Trump's uncle happened.
yeah.
Uncle John.
Well, there was an elevator too in that building up there in the Buffalo's Fair, right? If I remember seeing the pictures correctly, they had a building with an elevator in it, which was pretty advanced for the time. I mean, much like all these World's Fairs. We were just talking about the Chicago one the other day on the Occult Rejects. Heidi and myself were over there with Nick and gang at the Occult Rejects, talking about the Columbian World's Fair up there in Chicago and all the lighting that they had there. These gigantic bulbs, thousands of them, lighting this, multi-square mile property. And my point was, how are you powering that? Like, let alone like where are you getting these bulbs from and everything else at a time when these things are supposedly not prominent in our culture. This is kind of before the Tesla Edison, fallout as far as electricity goes. And suddenly we're powering large cities with, they're monumentally built with power that we don't somehow forgot how to do just a few years after that.
We forgot. Yeah.
Yeah, we forgot.
It's crazy. And this is, exactly. So is it that we forgot, or does this go into the matter? It's like, okay, so truth is truth no matter who says it, who speaks it, what it is. Truth is just truth. Okay.
Right.
So do y'all believe that truth is accessible to all, or is it something that's consolidated to a few? Because I'm going to get into the thing of the veil, like the veil of Isis. and the whole meaning of the veil, like truth being there and the veil being lifted in so many different ways. So what do y'all think about truth in terms of the world we live in? We have Stargate happening. We have Real ID happening tomorrow, except it's not. Kristi Noem already came out and said, whoopsie, well, if you don't got ID, you can still fly, but it's going to be hard on you. It's like, shut up. People know, if people know their rights, they know how to move accordingly. You don't need Kristi Noem, your mommy, to tell you otherwise. So what do y'all think about truth in terms of like how things are? Do people inherently know truth, or is it something that you have to, how do you approach truth?
Right. I think the Mormons are big on veils first and foremost. They love the term of veils. They love the use of veils. This is very big in their culture, and especially within the hierarchy of secrecy as you work your way up. At least from my experience, and again, my experience was just various priesthoods as a teenager, and from I think 14 to 18 or so there, and I got my last. I was not much longer, because again, once you're in the it's a patriarchal organization. So once you're in the men's side, I feel like there's probably higher secrets you get to, but I didn't quite make it that far. But nonetheless, very big on the veils, and that's how they explain them. Is you're kind of you're lifting these veils as you attain each one of these priesthoods. Is how it was explained to me. So you're understanding more and more of the universe basically, and there's a little bit of a ritual aspect to it, and some other some other biz like that, magical underwear, that kind of thing. But I think truth is truth. I mean, there, a lot of folks like to pervert the truth. We live in an age of perverted truth, but in an age that seemingly continues to increase its censorship, regardless of when I think it's hit its limit. But it is. I think I honestly, again, I grew up Mormon. Not really, you can call them Christians. They're kind of alien Christians. They got like an alien Jesus thing going on. So the Christian concepts of apocalypse, obviously they adopt them. Really, they're very apocalyptic in that regard. But the old Greek, version, the ancient Greek version of apocalypse, which these things were translated from, seems to be more of a concept I'm in line with in more of a Gnostic style view. Is the unfolding of truth. Everyone kind of just things become they're just obviously true, right? Like, well, that's obvious. Like, that's why we're doing that, or that's obvious why we've been doing that. We're coming to an era where these truths are becoming self-evident,
I think truth is all dependent on what place in society you are, because the truth for people that went to mystery schools is going to be different than my truth, right? Even though I was like JJ, I went to the veil. I shook the sacred hands of the veil master. I got my new name. I got my underwear, but that's a whole nother can of worms. But truth for them is like a different thing. Look at truth from 2020 to truth to now. Like, oh, who knew that truth would change? I mean, like, we see it over and over and over again. And, being a nurse, I mean, I was really in a situation there. And I mean, luckily, I just didn't have to do that because I have really bad allergies and asthma. So I was lucky, but never gave one either. That's just against my moral. So I just think that we have to look at everything through the eyes of other things, because what I knew as a Mormon to be true is not what I know now, to be actually true. Like, as I studied and came out and saw facts, you see the facts and you can't really sometimes put it together with the people that like, these people are so nice. That's the first thing. Ask JJ. They'll be like, they're the nicest people ever. Why are you so mean to them? I'm like, but yeah, they're nice. Do they know what they're doing? I don't know. What is their truth? So some people, you're right, don't want to know the truth. Trying to talk to my mom in 2020 was like, I may as well have banged my head against a wall. Trying to talk to my mom now is totally different. She's totally in a different place in her life, as far as that stuff. And then even with the church members that come out, if you told me some stuff that I tell other people now, at least not unsolicited, I don't, because I try not to break anybody's shelf, because it's just not nice. I mean, you got to be careful. And so that's another thing, right? Just because I know something to be true doesn't mean I'm going to shove it down somebody's throat either, because you don't want to give people a mental breakdown. So it's hard.
Yes. No, very true. Very true. Yeah. So I think exactly. I think inherently we all have a way to discern truth. We have a way to approach it. Like truth is there. It's going to happen whether you want it or not. Now, how you take it and what you do with it is a different thing. So that kind of got me on some reading about veils, like lifting the veils. Where does all this come from? Like metaphysically speaking, metaphor, like going on like talking about esoterics, like there's spiritual realms to the physical realms. Like everything physical has an equal thing spiritually. Okay. So how do those realms operate? Because they are real. Like these stories we hear, these old ancient stories of, like Zeus and, all these gods and goddesses and demigods and all these ancient powers and ancient knowledge. Like to some degree, this stuff has truth to it. It's not just nothing. Now, how do you lift the veil on those things? So I got to reading about the veil, just talking about some aspects of where this came from in the veil of the goddess. The phrase the veil of Isis is so common that we might not question where it came from, but perhaps we should. For one thing, ancient Egyptian women generally weren't veiled, so it would be odd to see a goddess depicted so. Oh, there were headdresses aplenty, but not concealing veils. By Ptolemaic times, under Greek influence, we do see veils as head coverings come into use, though they seem more decorative than anything else. Both Greek and Roman images of Isis often include a veil covering the back of the head and hair. The phrase veil of Isis comes to us from our Greek friend Plutarch in his essay on Isis and Osiris. In it, he's talking about Egyptian mysteries. He tells his readers that when the new pharaoh was crowned, he became privy to hidden Egyptian philosophy and notes that the Egyptians' knowledge of their deities, quote, holds a mysterious wisdom, end quote. To illustrate this point, he notes a certain seated statue of the goddess of Egyptian city of Sais. He says she is Athena, whom the Egyptians, considered to be Isis also. She would, of course, be Neith, the lady of Sais, who was indeed assimilated to both Athena and Isis. So just going back to a little bit of that, as far as like the veil and where it goes back to. And JJ, this kind of touches on what you said, and this goes back to Manly P. Hall, who we'll touch on here as well. Manly P. Hall, the Freemason researcher, prolific historian, scholar, all that stuff. But he talks about the ritual. I believe it's the mystery of the flame, is it? It's like there's layers. It's like in the temple, okay? There's like veils. There's like a one colored veil, and behind it there's another colored veil, and then there's another color, and they all symbolize layers, levels to certain knowledge. Nothing is given at once. The Bible talks about, babies drinking milk. You can't feed a baby meat because it can't handle meat. Certain people can't handle you can't handle the truth, something like that. So what do y'all think about the veil and like certain aspects of this old ancient idea of like truth is there and it really is like compartmentalized to a certain amount of people?
For sure. Yeah, I like. First of all, I like Plutarch. He's one of my favorite ancient, Greek scholars. In fact, I used one of his quotes to get out of a lot of trouble one time in the Air Force. That's a different story altogether. Had to go do a lot of. You might know what I'm talking about, Charles. Like you get in a lot of trouble, you start got to do a lot of shows, dance around a lot of folks, telling people you did stuff wrong. You're happy to change yourself, and if you do it right, they make you go tell that same story to every unit on base. So
yeah.
But as far as this idea of Isis and Athena, they're being the same characters. We're living under these concepts today with the Society of the Cincinnati. So they venerate a goddess character, and they've mashed together. And again, it's the same depiction of all these other ancient goddess characters kind of mashed into the goddess Columbia. So that's who we see. The Statue of Liberty. That's what we see on the top of the Capitol building. The little figure on top. That's Columbia. It's Lady Liberty. It's Athena. It's Isis. It's Hecate, you know what I mean? There's a lot of them. And if you go to the Society of Cincinnati headquarters in DC, it's off. You can see the depictions of these various depictions in the murals, the artwork, the tapestries. So I think I think there's a lot to be said that these seem like ancient ideas, but we're still very much living under these same kind of concepts today with groups that do these venerate these same goddess worship.
Yeah, nothing changed. Nothing changed. Everything's exactly like nothing's new under the sun. You know, the idea of Columbia,
For
like
sure.
here's one version, here's another version, here, and it's like it just keeps going. The same ideas keep going, but like the same principle is there. So, Heidi, what are your thoughts?
I like to always reference John D. He's quite the favorite for me, and I mean, whether these things are
007?
right, right. Yes, one of the first, right? But actually wasn't Al Kindi before him. So, I mean, people that know, I think that, there are demigods. I think that the angels fell and mated with women, and I think that there were demigods, and I think that that's a real thing. Do I think that they are that just because they tell you so? John D says they're all liars. So, I mean, what you're doing, if you're channeling something, if you're bringing it down, if you're doing whatever, to bring these things here, did you get what you ordered at the drive-through? I don't know if you did. You might end up, blowing yourself up shortly after or raising somebody else's kid or, these things happen. You might end up writing a whole thing about, the Book of Mormon and some golden plates and an angel told him to. And it's funny, we laugh, but like almost all of the religions go back to this same thing. When you're talking to, I feel like it's interdimensional, like pages in a book, when you're trying to get to this level, maybe this top level where these angels are, you probably didn't get there unless you did some like completely amazing like emptive for almost a year cleansings and fastings and all this wild stuff. Well, nobody does that. See, that's why there's all these weird open portals and different things that they forget to close.
Right.
Like Crowley. Yeah, because they don't want to do all that. And even he did try. I mean, he at least attempted to do it. He just forgot to shut it. He got busy, I guess. I don't know what happened there, but
Yeah, you're
yeah,
not just
I
gonna,
think
you can't casually bring that up, talking about opening portals and just like throw it out there. Like, yeah, please, what are you talking about?
yeah, I mean, I'm talking about calling things down. I'm talking about channeling specifically, just like John D. I'm talking about all of these things come not because they just showed up. Like somebody
Right.
did something to have the thing come, and it isn't what you think it is just because it said it was what it was. Like that's just not true. Like Moroni, I don't think Joseph Smith was high on mushrooms at all. I mean, if he was, it was part of it. But I don't think that's why he saw an apparition, because I've seen his parchments for his family and they're very occultic, and he's definitely calling down specific entities. And I don't think he did it correctly because I know he made his Jupiter talisman wrong. So when we get into
Was it
that,
a Moroni, or was it a salamander or a toad?
well, it was something like a toad.
Yeah,
The salamander was a play on, making it look better with the Knights Templar, in my opinion.
sure.
Salamanders are much nicer, right? They're forged by the flame and they're not burned and da da da. They did that to Mark on purpose. Poor Mark Hoffman.
I agree.
Sucker.
That's a very
Yeah.
deep situation there. And so that what I think folks miss on the Mormon stuff is they are a very powerful group. The mothership
Yeah.
in Salt Lake City wields an innumerable amount of power and strength in this country, politically, socially, everything. They were the folks behind, for example, Proposition 8 in California, right, wrong, or indifferent, whatever you want to feel about it. A large church organization like that passing laws like that isn't exactly American. And that's kind of why Joseph Smith got murked, because he was like, hey, guys, I'm going to make everybody a Mormon. And they're like, that's not a good idea. But so he started that religion out of this anti-Masonry epidemic that was going on in the area, but specifically, and again, there's Masons involved. He wasn't a Mason yet, but there's Masons involved. But more specifically, he was apparently the hereditary member in the Bloodline Society.
Uh-oh. JJ, come back.
Oh, yeah, he was just cooking too. He was starting.
He's coming. He's coming back.
Now,
Am I back?
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, it just started storming here. But yeah, so Joseph Smith seems to have been a hereditary member of the hereditary bloodline of the Society of Cincinnati. So he happens to start the religion in Fayette, New York, which is named after General Lafayette, the head of the French chapter of the society.
Yeah.
And he does it on a mound. And the society's got a deep interest in mounds.
And I do postulate that he was a Martinist, which would make sense with it being part of the French order, and we get into Lumen Walters and all that. But I really do think
Right, and that French order goes back to that Grand Orient Lodge I was talking about before. So there seems to be some epicenter with this Solomonic magic that Heidi's discussing with the Martinism, which is obviously the root of Mormon stuff, but within this Freemasonry element and the Society of Cincinnati. So, these factions operate within there. So there's a little bit crossover when you come into all these memberships.
And right there, what you just said, JJ. So let's do this. Society of Cincinnati, we'll go to that, and then we'll go to a point I had because this connects perfectly. So Society of Cincinnati. This is their words, not my words. Let's take their word for it. Right. The Society of Cincinnati is the nation's oldest patriotic organization, founded in 1783 by officers of the Continental Army who served together in the American Revolution. Its mission is to promote knowledge and appreciation of the achievement of American independence and to foster fellowship among its members. Now a nonprofit educational organization devoted to the principles and ideals of its founders, the modern society maintains its headquarters, library, and museum at Anderson House in Washington, D.C. So that's the society. And y'all talked about Mormons and presidents. Now we've got a list. This is a list of all presidents who are in any secret society or some kind of, club, secret society of all 45 presidents. Of course, Washington, confirmed Freemason. Let me zoom in there. Washington, confirmed Freemason, initiated November 4th, 1752. Fredericksburg Lodge, number 4. And then it gives you a nice little outline of, the Freemasons, the brothers. You got to throw up the gang signs. You got to do all this. So this is them doing that. You got to remember in the military, JJ, like you help each other out. You know what I'm saying? Like if you know somebody who's like trying to level up and you see that potential in them, you're going to help them out because, that's kind of what you do. Same thing with these. They're brothers, brothers, as we all know. And I was looking up.
Washington started his own brand of Freemasonry, which is kind of unique. And one of the lodges of the 13 lodges that are in that brand is located in Salt Lake City, strangely enough.
Now y'all were talking about Mormons and Masons. John Tyler, any comments? Confirmed Mason. 1844, murder of Mormon church creator Joseph Smith.
Yep.
The leaders of the Salt Lake City Mormon Church are working together with the various parts of the Illuminati's empire, including the Jehovah's Witness.
That's not an inaccurate statement, actually.
That's not okay. Heidi, any comments?
Well, here's the thing. When we get into Joseph Smith, everything is obfuscated about his family, and they did this on purpose, but it doesn't make any sense because like JJ has said, and I've said, like, this is he tried to run for president. He was a very like, oh, I'm your guy. Like, I want to be all about the country. Now, why? And Mormons are like that also. Like even nowadays, they're all about their country and all this. So why would you hide the fact that his great grandpa was the one that started the Boston Tea Party and hailed from, he didn't come from New York. Wait, where did he come from? Salem, Massachusetts. That's right. He wasn't a poor farmer. He was a statesman. And being a statesman, he was in charge of the Boston Tea Party. And he also was involved in a little thing called Let's Hang the Witches. So I think that's probably why they went, let's not talk about that, Grandpa, because it looks a little bad. We're not from Massachusetts or Salem at all. We came from over there. And that's kind of what happened. Yeah. So when we get into this, it's all about truth, like you said, right? Like, here we go down the road. Also, William Morgan, Joseph married up his wife. So the widow that was left behind on William Morgan's disappearance, Joseph wifed her up. So we've got
I'd like to point out, Heidi, that's another member of the society, right? Captain Morgan.
Right. That's right. And so it's just kind of interesting that we see all these things and then what is truth, right? Well, why are they leaving things out? I mean, is that not the truth? Well, in my book, that's lying by omission, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or are you Mormons, or are you the Church of Christ? Because,
there you go.
Brother Hiram's uncle actually discovered all this stuff along with this whole situation at Dartmouth years before. So I don't know, it's hard to swallow, along with the Skull and Bones members and, cousin Nathan that started Yale's medical school and stole all the dead bodies, but that's fine. Probably all part of the Cincinnati.
Totally normal. Nothing to see here.
Totally
No.
fine.
I think it does revolve around that. So when Smith gets murdered in 1844, he's already dispatched diplomats around the world telling him he's going to be U.S. president. He had the second largest army in America, only behind the U.S. Army, the Mormon militia, the Nauvoo militia. So, there's a lot to be said with that. But again, it seems to revolve around, like I was saying, that statement wasn't exactly, inaccurate, because there seems to be this Anglo-American invasion of British influence and crown influence that manifests through the Society of Cincinnati in a civil war that started probably around 1789, when George decided that he was going to come out of retirement and be the president. They later wanted to be king, but he would demand that he's going to return the power back to the people because of the Republic. He thought he was the reincarnation of Cincinnatus. He never said that. That's my opinion. It's based on his statements and actions. And again, he started a secret society venerating Cincinnatus. So Cincinnatus was a farmer who took militia up and led the ancient Roman Republic circa 500 BC on two separate occasions, and that's precisely what George did. He did it once in 1776, and he did it once again in 1790 there when he took office. So, because again, we had no president for nearly 8 years. This was operated by committee. Very similar to how France was operating at the same time, and that didn't work out well. They kind of started getting out the guillotines, and they guillotined a couple society generals. They threw Lafayette in prison. It took General Napoleon to let Lafayette out, along with some other society members, including brother-in-law of Alexander Hamilton, society member, who happened to also be a member. His brother-in-law was a member of British Parliament. That's a different story altogether. You're getting some weird confluence of political activities when you got a society guy, British Parliament, and married to Hamilton's sister-in-law. But it is the death of Hamilton that I would assert is the first public, exhibit of this Civil War. And that is when fellow society member Aaron Burr murdered Alexander Hamilton in his first action to take over America. That was the first. Modern historians will recognize Burr tried to take over America and the Burr conspiracy, and he was, brought up on treason charges and whatnot. But they don't recognize the first action, and that was really murdering Hamilton, who was the president general of the society at the time after Washington.
And we don't forget that, Joseph's last words.
Yeah.
Just remember why he got killed, too. He is not just only sleeping with single ladies. He's doing everybody's wives while they're out of town. This is polyamory and polygamy, which is whatever. But here's the thing. It wasn't tolerated back then. So will no one help a widow's son? I don't think they wanted to.
Right.
That was enough of that. So you can't really blame what was happening at the time, because he's like spilling all the Mason secrets. He's doing Kabbalah secrets. He's letting out all the things he's learned. I mean, he kind of had it coming. And I'm just saying, I think he thought he was invincible. Once again, like I said, he did make that Jupiter talisman incorrectly. That is verifiable. And I will say this, he did have that in his pocket, but he did not have on those magical underwear. So maybe if he would have wore both, hey, maybe he'd be here.
That was his flaw. If I may add 2 points on that 007 comment before relative to the Mormons. The first action Brigham Young does is in a diplomatic format once he hits Salt Lake City is takes a meeting with the top British spy, the kind of 007 of that era.
And he also runs away. He's running for his life. We can't be doing polygamy, but yet next call he makes is about the railroad. Hey, president, can we help you finish your railroad so we can ship out our sugar or whatever? Like that came next, president. But I'm just saying, it's not what it appears to be. Yeah,
definitely seemed to be embedded with this again. The spy seemed to be doing some diplomatic relations with old Brigham and what was then Mexico and not the United States. So. This was not, the Mormons fled the country. So they fled the country and seemingly did a lot of agreements with the British because they would start recruiting a lot of new membership directly from England with a large influx of pioneers from England after that. Preceding that, it was mainly like Denmark, Norway, some of the Norse countries, a lot of Templar heritage. I don't think that's by accident. But it's interesting when you look at these 007 concepts, right, with these super spies and how we're depicted in we kind of said earlier in the show, the depiction of things in storylines in fiction and media. The story of James Bond 007, written by Ian Fleming there, he actually writes about Aleister Crowley as one of the villains in the first story, as is a character Heidi and I have discussed a lot as of late, and that is Aristotle Onassis, who was I'm trying to think of the guy's name. The character in the film is Blue. What's the name of the villain there? Blue something, right? Blue, I want to say Blue Dorn, but that's Cocaine Bob's boss. But anyhow, the Dr. Evil character from the Austin Powers films is based upon the original James Bond villain. That original James Bond villain is based on Aristotle Onassis,
who we will be diving deep into very soon. That's the next installment of the Mormon Mafia. So
there you
go. Yeah, he's an interesting guy.
He marries John F. Kennedy's widow, Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy, who is the daughter of another French member of the French Society of the Cincinnati. Her father was, hereditary descendant of the French chapter.
It's all so. Is basically can a regular person who just is a regular person be a part of this club?
As a goyim, sure.
As a puppet, as an animal, as a toy, as a tool.
They're going to let in the nicest people ever. Like I said, the Mormons are the nicest people ever. But if you're not one of their bloodline top,
there you go.
There you go. Come on. They went and built their own place for the prophets and everything. I live in Utah. They went and built this years and years ago in the 70s. And JJ, do you remember what they built that subdivision, what it was called?
Was it Zion?
Let you guys know. Mount Olympus for the gods.
Oh, nice.
So it's just ridiculous. It's called this to this day. I mean, and that they don't really hide it per se. They tell the men they're going to be gods. I mean, they also call their god Elohim, which is not one guy. It's multiple people, right? Elohim is a title, yes. And it's multiple. And I don't think they really hide that. They just try to make it sound better. So when we're talking about Jesus, which is why I was so pissed when I started opening up and learning things like, don't look that up. You don't look that up. So I did look that up. I started looking a lot of things up and I went, whoa, we are in trouble here. Cause I did all that stuff and I got another name and all the underwear and the things and holy cow, how many spirits do I got attached to me from all the dead people I went and did stuff for? I mean, you start thinking about crazy stuff and I don't have a problem with the Mormons. Here's my problem. You lie. Tell the truth. You're a magical order. You're making people do ceremonies, which it's necromancy stuff, most of it. And you're harnessing the energy. And actually, if you want to get to the top of the top, the last thing that ever happens, like JJ says, it's patriarchal until the last top blessing that no one talks about, which is the second anointing given by a woman. Why? Goddess.
The same goddess worship as the Society of Cincinnati, right?
Yes, sir.
Columbia,
where they came from.
That's my guess. Yep. I mean, I think it's irritating that they hold down the women and make them feel less than a 12-year-old boy their whole lives, except when Joseph was alive, because Zena did have some power there back in the day, but they took that away when Brigham came in. So whatever. But this blessing is laid. She lays her hands upon your head in your marital bedroom. That is some sex magic if I've ever heard of any. And listen, if you want to do sex magic, you want to call down them angels, you want to get thrown out a window, you will go right ahead. But let's be a little bit honest about it here so that my grandma, who was a nice lady, isn't thinking that she's talking to Jesus when she prays. She's talking to something else. And I think so.
God. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, if you want to talk about portals,
window, that's some R. Kelly, P. Diddy.
I know it. I know it's something, and people will say I'm crazy, but that's why I do a slideshow. And JJ's seen it before. It's because I bring their own material from them. It's really hard to argue with me, and usually when they do, they just call me names. So that's fine. Whatever.
Yeah, if you want to talk about portals, Heidi, talk about the baptismal fountain or fountain there in the temple with the, where they're doing all this necromancy, right?
Sure.
Yeah, like that. You want to talk about a portal? That's got to be some sort of portal, right? The water, weird.
Put in baptism for the dead. Font.
Yep.
Baptism for the dead font. You'll see about them oxen where they're carrying you off to. I don't know, but it's not.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's clearly a portal, right, with the water and the whole setup, the font.
I'm telling you, it
You
isn't
got to get your
good.
magic underwear on, like a spacesuit, for your travels.
Do all the things. I did all them things. I got rid of all that stuff. I wanted to talk to the other Jesus, the regular one, not the white Jesus either. I don't know why they think he's white, but they do.
Right.
So he has red hair.
You don't think
And
Jesus looks
Yeah,
like
there you go.
Jesus doesn't look like, a session guitarist?
I think he's Middle Eastern.
Grateful Dead. He
I
doesn't
think
look
he's
like a
from the
Grateful Dead
Middle
roadie.
East. He's black or brown. My daughter tells everybody at school and makes everyone mad.
That's
So-
it to the left there, Charles, with all the oxen you see there.
There we go. All the
That's
oxens.
you got there you go. You got the there as
Any
well.
of
But
them. Yeah.
Oh,
how many oxen we
They're
got here?
all-
I forget.
Oh.
Heidi.
12. Mm-hmm. I think it's 12, right?
12,
Isn't it
right?
12
12,
tribes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's the symbology behind that? I'm sure 12, we see that number pop
12
up
tribes of
everywhere.
Israel. Yeah, that's so they say. I
they're
don't
really
think
based
so.
on the lost tribes. That's a big part of their philosophy, which was actually borrowed from Elias Boudinot, who was a member of the Society of Cincinnati and a founding father.
Would that make you
What
feel
about-
comfy if you had to get in there half naked
Well,
almost?
I've been in there. I've been in
No,
there.
I know. I'm
half naked.
asking.
Talking about Heidi.
I'm
Do
asking.
you
him.
feel alive when you come out?
Nope.
I know.
It's not good. You're doing baptisms for dead people.
It's a
You are
strange
the
experience.
prophecy.
It's a strange experience for sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
there's
don't
this
like
one.
it.
Look at that.
I didn't feel good about it.
Like
I felt crazy.
Which
creepy.
temple did you go to, Heidi? The one in Salt Lake?
Ogden. We did Ogden and Bountiful. So
Ogden and Bountiful. I did
Yep,
Chicago and
because-
DC.
it's spooky, and you guys have to understand, like, the symbolism alone. They can lie and say whatever they want. It's hysterical to me. I'm like, okay, we're not supposed to study astrology, sir. I have a question. Why is the Big Dipper out on the outside of every temple? I'm just curious. We're not supposed to study the stars because you said so. So what's that over there? Everything, all of it. It's just so crazy. Probably with dead people. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
That's Bill Gates right there. Bill Gates has got a hold of your McDonald's. You stay away from there. I don't care what they say. Yeah, Bill Gates is providing all of the produce now for all chains of McDonald's. So number one landowner. Yeah, number one farm landowner in America is Bill Gates now. Do you want to know who's number
Such a
two?
philanthropist.
JJ, you can't answer.
Hold up. Bill Gates is number one.
Yeah, who's number
Landowner?
two? Yeah, farmland.
We're told it's China.
How about the
as in
Mormons?
people.
It's the Mormons.
Oh
It's
my
the
God.
Mormons.
Oh,
And
what's the agenda behind that?
Well, right. Isn't that
Power.
interesting? What's the agenda? I think they're doing a nice millennial flex because lately they've been real crazy. They tore down their most iconic area in Salt Lake City and they changed the whole layout of the grounds. This is what they tore up. And they now exactly represent it as same identical as the Vatican. It's a keyhole. The new temple grounds in Salt Lake City is a keyhole. They took out the Fountain of Living Waters and replaced it with UN flag display because they are good global citizens.
Right.
And that's what they told them, by the way. That's their words, not mine. Be good global citizens and get the cure. Every man, woman, and child, despite whatever your history or problems are, go get the cure. That tipped a lot of people off that, hey, maybe they're trying to kill us. Too many people know the secrets.
As we're talking about this, I'm thinking back when I lived in the capital. I used to drive and see this all the time. And it's like, as we're talking about this, it's like, yeah, I used to see this, John.
Yeah, it looks like a Wizard of Oz, doesn't it? Especially in the wintertime at night.
Always scary.
Wow.
It's like you drive
Those
fast. And I'm
fires.
always like, yeah, I'm driving past it and I'm like, this is just spooky. Like whatever this is, it's spooky. I don't know what it is.
Try going inside. It's
Yeah.
not good.
Well, they got a visitor center you can visit, but other than that, you're not going inside that place without the recommend, right, Heidi?
No.
Gotta get
But
the
once
bishop's
you're in
recommend.
there, the whole time you're in there, you're like, what the hell are we? I don't know about you, JJ, but I've
been in there. I've been in there twice.
I
know
was
the
elbowing
place.
my
I've
grandma
seen it.
the whole time. Like, what the hell are we doing in here? Like this.
Yeah,
is
but they don't
so
build them like this
scary.
anymore. The Chicago one pales in
Ugh.
comparison.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. I
This
think
is a
they're going to
magnificent
scrub
structure.
everything. I think they're going to scrub the Salt Lake City, all the symbols that are on there because there's some interesting ones.
And JJ, this is the one you're talking about, right? Where you went.
Yeah. So my mother was a convert in D.C. in the early '70s.
And you got the angel blowing the horn over
Uh-huh.
the
You
the
should look up
Washington
about angels blowing horns when you learn more about that in the occult. It's not quite what they made it seem. I don't know.
Wow, boy.
Yeah.
But this is now I didn't know this, but the Washington D.C. temple was the first Latter-day Saint temple to be built on the East Coast
Yep.
of the United States. Completed in 1974, it is the third largest temple in the world. Visitors from all over the world. So unless they're vetted, right? Visitors who are vetted and scrutinized and
Well, they got a
you know,
visitor center. Yeah, you can go in that. It's kind of informative, but you're not
okay.
going
They're
to see
pretty
the
smart
structure.
too. They've got it all barcoded. You're not slipping
Yeah.
in.
Huh.
It's all your picture is there. You got a
Oh, for
barcode.
sure.
They're digital.
Yeah,
They will
biometrics.
arrest your ass.
Mm,
Yeah, they will arrest you. Mhm.
wow. Visitors from all over the world come to this sacred site for its beauty and religious significance. Members of the church gather inside the temple for sacred religious ceremonies to bring them closer to God, right, Heidi? While tourists come to view the temple grounds and enjoy the visitor center. There is something for everyone at the Washington, D.C. temple.
Depends on
Love.
which god. I mean, maybe Typhonian, maybe? I don't know. That little move that we used to do in there, so Typhonian to me, but that's okay.
So it's
Yeah.
interesting to consider that it was the first temple on the East Coast because it really did mark the explosion of Mormonism on the East Coast. I mean, DC at the time had one ward of Mormons, meaning one meeting group of Mormons. And again, I know this because I had my mother was part of that ward. She got recruited into that ward there as a school teacher in Alexandria, Virginia at the time. And this is a very interesting group. If you think about all the Mormons in D.C. and government, et cetera, even the folks like the Marriott, billionaire family of the Marriott hotel chains, they all, this is all a bunch of people in one very small ward there in DC at the time. So it was a lot of the folks that owned you resided in DC there. Charles, Tyson's Corner,
Right, yeah.
that family, they're Mormons. The family
Wow.
that owned that farm and sold for that mall for exponential whatever, and sold the CIA land to build their stuff on over in Falls Church
Wow.
region. I mean, that's
Yeah.
these are all Mormon. You're talking about real estate. This is the Mormons' game right here. You're talking about Mormon real estate families. That's what they do. So
Well,
that's
the number
that's what they owned
one,
around
like,
DC. And if you think of what the Marriott's own, I mean, that's got to be. I think it's the
oh,
largest
Yeah.
chain
That's
of
nuts.
hotels.
well,
Yeah.
the Mormons, like I said, they've been doing some flexing lately. They did build a temple down the street from the Vatican, which has never happened before. It was completed and it was very under the rug. Like you would think they would blow the horn from the highest tower, but they didn't. They kind of were like, shh, we're the secret neighbors next door. And they just let them do it. They also have purchased the Westminster Abbey. That was weird. There's a
That is
whole bunch
weird.
of flexing going on that I'm like, okay, they owe them something. But here's the biggest thing. I know this about the Mormon church was already into it up to their eyeballs before this, but after the Nazi situation, they were one of the very few that sent aid to Germany. Not to the people that were persecuted. No, to their friends, the Nazi Brotherhood. And they were like, they are our members. Okay, why also was Werner von Braun in one of your theological movies? That seems weird.
Right.
Why are you so invested in Howard Hughes, Mormons? I mean, he who holds the king gets the key. That's all I say with that.
There's some good points, Heidi. There's definitely some agreement, some principles they find commonality in between the Mormons and the Nazis, not the least of which is white nationalism. But past that, because they didn't let folks who weren't white hold the priesthood until 1978.
1978.
So
Yep.
yeah, it was a matter of convenience, I think, for public
You don't
relations
want
and
to know
whatnot.
the story there, sir. I don't know if
Right.
Charles has heard this story. My niece is mixed, and I had to tell her this story once. And
ahead.
I was so glad
Yeah,
I left
please.
Mormonism before I told her the story because it's a story. So you know about the war in heaven, right?
Tell
And
me
so
about all this.
there's the war in heaven,
Right.
And when Lucifer takes the third of the host of heavens and falls and
Yes.
all that.
Okay,
Well,
yes.
everybody's in the premortal with the
Mhm.
LDS people. They believe we all lived, back then too. We want to suffer forever, apparently live even before we're born. So whatever, we're up there too. And the people that couldn't make up their mind which side to go on, they were called fence sitters. Well, the fence
Oh,
sitters were cursed with black skin because
oh
they
God,
didn't
of
choose a
course.
side.
Why?
Yeah.
By the way, I'm sorry. It's always niggas always take the brunt of something. It's always Noah's. It's always like Ham. We're either Hamites and
They
Cushites.
believe in
It's
that
always
too.
that.
They believe in
It's
that one too. That's
Cain,
the brown
the
people.
mark of Cain. It's black people. It's always. I'm
Right.
sick of that shit. But anyways, okay. So
It's the
fence
worst.
sitters. We're black.
So
So black people
we
are
got
fence.
and my grandpa called people that when I was young. Like I didn't even know what that meant. Like I was like, what? And so I was so glad by the time my niece came along, like I said, she's mixed race, that I was out. Because by the time she heard this story, I was like, this has nothing to do with me. This is some
Right.
crazy stuff. I am sorry. Like this is, bananas. Why would God not love everyone? He made all of us. This is stupidity at its highest form. Like I
Yeah,
just,
but white
For
people get
sure.
a bit of an edge. White people are a little bit more. There's just a
right.
little more love, a little extra love.
You know what? Do you want to know what the first white person want to know what they talked about him? Because they did talk about him in the Bible. The first guy that came out a little too white, and he came out and they were like, "Uh-oh, I think he's a scary Nephilim baby." They literally said this. You know this?
You're
You know
talking
this
about
is
Noah?
about Noah. Yeah,
Yeah.
he
The
had
red
that red
hair,
hair.
yeah.
And they were like, "Put him back. He's scary." They weren't happy about this. This isn't normal per se. I'm not saying I hate my race or anything. I'm just saying that I think it's ridiculous. I think we're all made
Right.
differently because we're supposed to be different because we're all beautiful different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's stupid. But yeah, this is
I agree. Here's
the
a funny
thing.
commonality here again between the Mormons and the Nazis. It's not a direct. We don't really understand necessarily the overwhelming. Again, they're doing Werner von Braun documentaries about space, which obviously space is a commonality, but there's obviously a lot more crossover there than we know publicly. Again, there's organizing principles in society that exist beneath the surface that we don't quite understand. Here's another great example of that. So Gavin Newsom's dad, his mentor and business associate was not only was it financed by the Gettys, this is a man that they did business with as well. He was the attorney for the Gettys doing business with these folks as well. And it was a SS officer. He gets outed as an SS officer, who was, brought over here, OSS. He wasn't a Project Paperclip scientist. That's Project Paperclip was only one program. There's lots more Nazis besides them.
Right.
So this is one of the other Nazis. He's thriving in California as a businessman, funded by the Gettys, working with Gavin Newsom's dad. When he's outed as an SS officer in early 1980, he's living in a senior citizens home in Southern California. So he gets outed publicly as this SS officer, immediately marries this Mormon lady in the senior citizens home and says, "You guys can't, deport me. I'm Mormon." I don't know if that's a legitimate argument. It turned out it really wasn't. He died. He was losing the deportation case, it seemed, but he died in the process. He was elderly, but he probably got killed. But he thought it was a good excuse as an SS Nazi, and apparently maybe even got the buy-in from the mothership to say, "Hey, I'm a Mormon now. You guys can't take me anywhere."
Wow.
It's always the most strange things, right? Like it literally you step back and go, "Oh my gosh, speaking of truth," right? I step back and go, I believe this. Also, Lucifer is the brother to Jesus in our religion, and
Right.
he is white with some beach blonde waves, like kind of
Oh,
ish. Yeah.
Lucifer's looking like
little
80s
surfer
white
tan
guy,
going.
right?
Oh no, that's Jesus. Yeah,
Oh,
Jesus
you're
looking
talking
like
about Jesus with
it.
bleach blonde. Okay, so Jesus is traditional. So Lucifer's
Yeah.
black then, of course.
No, he's white too. Everybody's white. They're all white.
What does he look like though? Is he an Italian type of white guy? Is he like a
He was
Turkish?
kind of hot. He was kind of hot in the movie for the temple. They had to take that down because too many girls were like, "Ooh, Lucifer, you kind of hot." But yeah, he's there. He's there at the temple with us. He's also there. He gives us the apron. Why we ever take anything from Lucifer, I'm like, what are we doing here? Why are we taking the things from Satan and putting them on now? Everybody stand, please stand. Put on your
Yeah.
aprons. I'm like, why
Right.
did
You
we
get
get
it?
that
It's
from
the point. Just put
Satan?
it on. Just you don't get it. Just
I did not get it. You know what? I was so messed up after that I don't think I went back for like 9 months. And you're supposed to go back a lot. And I
You
was
know what?
like, no.
You saying all this makes me think. As a kid, we went to church, and I remember like there was some tape my parents like got from someone. I don't know what it was, but looking back now, I'm like, this must have been like a Jehovah's Witness or something. It's like a short movie about like, yeah, people are just living life and having a good time, and we're praising God and the Lord. We got to live a good life, but the world is so evil, and there's nuclear destruction. And this
Yep.
president is a chaotic guy with like all these buttons, and it's crazy. And he's about to launch the missile, and he launches it, and then the world is destroyed. But it's all good because we are in heaven. And there's a song that we are in heaven. And I remember as a kid being so freaked out, like, oh shit, I don't want to. Like I used to wake up scared, like what the
Sure.
fuck is that? And I'm sure
I
think
don't
it's
know how old you are, but I used to have to get under my desk because the bomb was going to drop. JJ, yes?
wow.
Are
We
you
didn't
that
do a lot
old?
of bomb drops, but I've gone through enough of my psychological warfare in the military
Oh,
with
I mean,
various bomb attacks, biological
just as a
attacks,
kid,
that kind of thing.
did
No,
you
we
didn't
didn't do
have
any of
those?
those things. I don't know. They
Oh,
just didn't like that
maybe
where I
I
was
think
at, I
you're
guess. I
younger
don't
than
know.
me. I think you're
We didn't do
younger
it.
than
We
me.
did fire drills occasionally. They didn't really care about those either, to be quite honest with you. They served
Are you
the
almost
kids
50?
bleach one day on top of some French toast for breakfast at
Oh
the
my
school. They didn't really give a
gosh.
shit about us, so
What? Okay, that's scary. I don't know about that. I didn't get any bleach. They were pretty nice, but I did have to get under for the bomb and I even as a kid, like 8 years old, I was like, I don't think this is going to work. I think this is not going to work. Like if it's a bomb, I was like, maybe we should just go about living our best life. Like, because I don't think this desk is going to save me here.
right.
So, oh boy. But
Maybe
yeah,
if
we
you had
used to
that
do it.
magic underwear, you'd be all right. It saves you
Well, I
from
was
knife
too little.
attacks,
Yeah, I
smaller,
was too little.
pistol rounds, nuclear blasts.
You can't do it at 8. Yeah, 8, 9. We can't have them then. So I was out of luck. I would have had them. I was true blue. I was a true blue Mormon girl. Yeah.
I
TBM.
served with a bunch of guys that would wear their magic underwear underneath their uniform in the middle of Iraqistan in 110-degree heat in summertime. That's dedication.
TBMs. True blue Mormon. Yep.
No, but
That's
before
what
we
that is.
jump into like the old world and the ancient things, tell me about this underwear.
You got to pull up a picture. The picture's worth 1,000 words. I mean, just put in Mormon garments. It'll be interesting, I promise. Everybody
if you go
will
to the temple, you
now
got to wear them to do anything in the temple, right, Heidi? That's your
anything.
uniform.
Oh, all day long, 24/7, all the time. You never take them
Yeah.
off unless you. So there's some rules. You can take them off for the gym. You can take them off for medical procedures if necessary. You can take them off to shower and put on a new pair because you have many pairs of these. These are your underwear. And you can take them off to make more Mormons.
Yep.
Yay. Put them directly back on afterward. This is the progression over time. And they do now look like this little 2-piece suit you got right there. Yep. You're hovering. Yep. So boxer shorts, t-shirt. They do have, I never thought they would. Yes, this is it. They have the longest crotch of any crotch ever. I don't understand for the woman. I understand for the men. You guys got stuff to put there. I don't
My man
understand
got a
why it's
BBC in
skinny.
there.
I'm telling you, this thing, look at it's sagging on her like down. It's and you don't wear underwear underneath. You have to wear your bra over the top. They touch your skin first. Actually, back in the day, okay, so it had evolved quite a bit by the time I had gone through. So I went through in 1996. My great grandma, when she went through, they would bathe and keep one arm and one leg in the old pair and keep the arm out of the tub and then bathe and do whatever real quick and then take it all the way off when they put the new arm in. So
Damn.
right arm in first, right leg in first. They cannot touch the floor. You don't wash them with other things. You have to cut out the emblems, which you should probably pull up what's on them. It's completely Freemason sign. So see, yeah, same today. So the compass and square, I didn't even know what a Freemason was.
Well, Heidi, that's clearly because these practices come from the same place as the Freemasons, right? Solomon's
Right.
Temple. They're not the
Yep,
same thing. They
they
just
do.
come from the same place. It's very reasonable.
Yes. Yep.
That's
And I
that's the
didn't
official
even
word.
know I didn't know what a Freemason was, and of course, the church is the only one that makes them. And you have to cut these little symbols out and burn them when you're done with when they get too old. So
Wow.
tell me that's not a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Whatever. I wore these for years. I was miserable. I lived
wow.
in St. George, very hot there. It
You wore
was
them every day.
I did. Always.
I was an East Coast
Uh-huh.
Mormon. I only wore them in the temple.
Yeah, I wore them
All right.
24/7. Yep.
So this
Oh, Lord
was like
mercy.
you just wore this, like this was your outfit, and then the bras on the outside. Like,
Underwear if you want, but they do have like an underwear place, I guess is a nice like a crotch area. So you don't have to wear underwear. They are the underwear. They're long underwear.
so he's got this little kangaroo pouch where he keeps the
She's
jewelry
got one
bag.
too. Look at that. It's the worst. It wasn't fun.
Wow.
Yeah, Utah people, it's serious. You wear them day and night all the time. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's you have to wear the proper clothing. Now, I will say this, they have changed them and I never thought I'd live to see the day. Now they don't have this short cap sleeve for women. They have a tank top like sleeve, which is you don't understand how big a deal this is. And also like this was huge. And also they had like a slip now that's like because you have to wear these to bed also. So a lot of women were getting medical issues because things have to breathe. I'm a nurse. I'm here to tell you that is true. People were getting chronic infections. I think the church finally started to
Oh,
understand that. And they made like just the slip so it's open, it's open like a slip so that probably they could wear it to bed. That's my assuming. Yeah.
damn.
But
Very interesting. Wow.
they come in all different. So somebody asked, are they silk? They come in lots of different fabric, cotton, poly, 50/50, silk mesh, silky. There's so many different kinds. They got new ones, like kind of a bamboo viscous material. They got all kinds of them.
I'm gonna need a
So
camo version. They do a camo version.
they do military. They do the military version for you guys, and they can be green, and they also do black ones for police. So
Oh,
that
interesting.
nobody knows. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not just pure white. Like you could do a little.
Well, you have to present your cop. Like I am a policeman. Here is my
Right.
badge. You can't
Oh
just buy
wow.
those.
Oh damn! I can't just wear tie dye. Like, hey, this is
Nope.
me.
None of that. Yeah, none of that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a situation. We'll say
That's
that.
really I know people talk about Mormonism and all this like being a thing, but that's really like that's culty. That's culty as hell. That's really like it's like okay, so we talk about let's go to this real quick. Is it culty? You know what? I'm not gonna judge. Is it culty?
Yeah.
Let's ask the right questions. Let's jump in here. So according to Albert Mackey, okay, Freemason extraordinaire, Encyclopedia of Freemasonry. This is a digital version. I got one at the house, but occult sciences. This name is given to the sciences of alchemy, magic, and astrology, which existed in the Middle Ages. Many of the speculations of these so-called sciences were in the 18th century made use of in the construction of the higher degrees. We have even a hermetic rite, which is based on the dogmas of alchemy. So occult. The occult focuses on these certain sciences, these principles, these things that are real. Okay, nowadays kids go to school and learn chemistry, but back in the day it used to be alchemy. Okay, we learn all these things that are like basically like watered down versions or perversions of what used to be. So all this underwear wearing, all this like whatever, where is this? Like, is this occult? Is it esoteric? Does this have any value? Is it people literally doing a cultic thing? I've heard this being tied to Freemasonry, Kabbalah, Judaism, you name it. What is this? And is this in any way tied back to the fall of man at all? Because I feel like all things somehow make their way back to the fall of man.
Well,
It's
the fall of
it's
man
the
is the
veil.
fall. Yeah.
It's the protective
story
veil
is
for
the
your
veil.
body. That's what that is. That's what the Mormons view it as, essentially, right, Heidi?
Yeah, esoterically, I think the fall of man story is all over. There's rituals about that.
Sure.
What was this? gold and green balls when I was young. Or they still they did dances. I did go to all the church dances. Yes.
Sure.
I
I
went
don't
to
remember there
all of
being
them.
gold and green balls, but I remember a lot of dances.
I don't Yep, dances, yes. So, we get a new name, much like magic. We get most everything that you see here that we go through, and it's hours long we would have to go through, but it's very occultic, esoteric, and that's why I argue they're just hiding it under a different name, and they never tell you the whole truth. Like, they don't say ever that it's goddess worship. They do tell you there's a mother in heaven, don't ask about her, we don't know. She's too
Right.
special, don't ask. So, like, at some point, somebody had to have first raised an eyebrow and been like, "Wait, why is the woman doing the last coolest blessing you ever get?" And not everyone gets that. That's for the special. That's like tippy top. So why is the tippy top blessing by the girl if they're a patriarchal order? That never made any sense to me. In fact, JJ, when I went to the temple the first time, I was back there getting the shield all naked underneath, had my head through the shield, open sides, your butt naked under there, waiting for somebody back with the women. He's with the men. And, I'm waiting. I'm like, hey, why is there a lady in here? This lady can't give me a blessing. She doesn't have the priesthood. My grandma's like, shut up. It's different in here. I'm like, no, I want the guy. This is
Yeah.
totally irrelevant. I'm very legalistic, like with things that I learned. So I was like, no, I want the guy. And they're like, no, we'll explain it later. And I was like, what is happening now? I know, because of the second anointing, these women had a form of the priesthood that's only given to the
Right.
elect. But at the time, they weren't going to tell me that. They never did tell me that. That's so wrong. They don't even know what they're doing. These people don't know. I didn't know. I didn't know what a Freemason was, and I had them on my nipples. I mean, how
You bring
fair
up
is that?
you bring up a good point too, jurisdictionally speaking, within the mothership's orders there, of the church. That's a whole separate jurisdiction inside the temple. Like your bishop, local bishop of your ward, has to give you a recommendation, and you have to have
Yeah,
a purpose to go in the temple. Once you go in there, they got no say what goes on in life. That's a whole different system in there.
it's crazy. And I just was sitting there the whole time going, what are we doing? This is nothing that I knew my whole life. Like, this is supposed to be your best day ever. You wait for this day your entire life. And for most people, it's the day they're getting married, unless you're going on a mission. And so, you're sitting there going, what is happening? Why is this? What are we doing in here? I thought this was going to be something different, Nope, it was weird, and it never got any better. My grandma was very wrong. It didn't, and I don't like how
Right.
it felt. I didn't like
Sure.
how it felt. They have mirrors that face each other that make a portal. You want to be talking about portals while you're
Portal
getting
South.
married, using sex energy, because you've got two kids usually there that are staring at these forever mirrors as they're getting married as virgins. The
Virgins, right.
energy alone, you don't have to have the act. Look, sex magic can be the feeling. Okay. Like, you got these two
Sure.
kids ready to go crazy. They've been in this stupid ceremony for
A lot of
hours.
energy there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And you're just like, get on with it, guy. Like, you probably don't even care what they're saying at that point. But I mean, I got married later, so I married a convert. So I had to
I
wait
got
a year. I was
married in the VFW hall,
pregnant.
so that doesn't count.
Yeah. It's a whole thing. But you're married for time and all eternity. Like, that's not biblical. A lot of the stuff they do isn't biblical. So where are they getting it from?
Now,
Right.
okay, when you say now, this is where I'm like, I'm totally ignorant to this. When you say married, like these are people you're with now.
You get married for, like, that's where you really get married. And so your family can't come unless they have the little pass. You get married over an altar, kneeling, looking into these mirrors for time and all eternity, to your husband or wife, whoever you choose, in these little outfits that are crazy. Why don't you Google a temple ceremonial outfit, LDS, and you'll see what they get married in. They just have, they don't wear their wedding dress. They wear this outfit you're going to show here in just a minute. And it's just not
Temple
normal.
garments.
Yeah, well, temple clothes. Yeah, temple clothing, right? Your little did you find yeah, except they're leaving out the good parts. Let's see. I don't know if they're showing. They're probably blocking it because it's supposed the lady with the apron on's closer. But it's black and white. But yeah, it's accurate.
Okay.
Temple clothing, LDS, maybe. Did you put that in?
Let's try this.
So you got a green apron. You got this white dress on. You got a green apron. You got
Green
a
apron. I haven't seen that one.
one-breasted robe, and there's the apron. There we go. That's what it looks like.
Yeah,
that
okay.
goes over the top
There you
of
go.
a dress, a white dress or a white suit and tie, and da 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 da. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what they do.
Okay.
Nick says it's just like the OTO, except they don't wear clothes underneath.
Whoa.
So, but we do. Mormons are they're clothed. They got a suit and tie, like white, everything white. So, yeah.
You got the colors: green, victory, new to the
I have-
office, represents.
I've never seen another apron but green, ever.
Okay.
Except Satan's. Satan's is black in the ceremony. So,
Lord Voldemort wears black. That's like a universal color.
yeah, he gets to wear the black apron. Yeah.
Wow.
It's something. But anyway, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
It gets
that's
interesting.
certainly culty. Now let's make a tie-in with government. So occult things, like I said, like going back to the fall of man, like I believe in all the Nephilim stuff. It just, long story short, Nephilim, something in heaven somehow interceded with mankind, and then fuckery ensued, and then there was a bunch of crazy shit taking place.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
Where
A lot of weird
is that
Texans here.
today? Yeah, exactly. Like, where
Yeah.
are y'all with that today as far as like occult, the mysteries? Are the mysteries tied into that, or is that a fraction of a greater whole as far as the mysteries go? Or do all roads basically lead to giants and Nephilim and disembodied spirits and the bottomless
Yeah.
pit?
Basically. So the society in Cincinnati, they, I think they thought Cincinnatus, the guy they venerated there and named their organization after, was one of these giant Adena, what we call Adena type giants at the base of these Adena mounds. He's from the era in which these Adena mounds thrived. They depict him as a giant in their statue they built of him in Cincinnati. They're the city of their, essentially their operational headquarters, if you will. And then, I think there's a good idea that these giants, could be what are known as the Nephilim, right? Like they're telling the stories of the same beings, kind of in the sense that, that one diddler over there in England, Freud, he wrote a book about Moses being the same character as Akhenaten. You know what I mean? The same person, told from different perspectives. So, I think the Nephilim is one perspective of these giants, and I think the Adena elite, these chiefs of the Adena culture, these mound builders, they would probably tell a different perspective of their history. But you know what I mean? It's the same people. We're just saying it from different angles.
Yeah, I definitely think most of the magic performed in the temple is probably to fallen angels. That's why they call their god Elohim. They're not going to tell you that. They're going to say that God, the Holy Spirit, and Jesus are all different people. They're not the Trinity. They're not the same people. And I do think, they know an awful lot about magic that they don't let on. I do think that the bloodlines are super important for the LDS people. Yeah. They have a full Batman cave full of DNA and or samples of genealogy here in Utah called the genealogy complex. What's it called? Something mountain. Remember, JJ?
What do you suppose is more in depth, the Mormons facility or the Scientologist L. Ron Hubbard cigarette themed facility up there by the Epstein compound in northern New Mexico?
I don't know.
It's on the same level of insanity, if you ask me. There's these underground vaults of, that are supposed to last nuclear blasts and thousands of years.
So we have the genealogy center that's in the side of a mountain. They blew out the side of a mountain for these genealogy records, but underneath the temple and underneath Salt Lake City in general, there is a full tunnel grid system used by the church.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then they have the vault, which JJ is talking about. And so
Yeah, big
it's
vault
very
stuff.
much, like the Vatican, but it's spread out more.
Like
It's like
Scientology. Scientology loves
that
vaults.
too. Yep.
L. Ron Hubbard
So
built one with his favorite cigarette logo on it down there in New Mexico.
I do find it like crazy interesting about the bees and Napoleon, and the Mormons say they're bloodline of Jesus. The Kingstons do anyway. And they
I find
literally
it
marry
crazy
their
they're digging
brothers
these.
and sisters. Mhm.
Sure. These vast underground complexes, they seem to these cults seem to specialize in these activities. It makes you wonder, right?
But I
You
mean,
know?
everything goes back to caves, right? All these mysteries took place in underground caves and a lot of like underground
Yeah.
tunnels, because you know what? That's like the underworld. That's like the darkness.
Google Granite Genealogical Vault. Speaking of a cave, if you want a cave, I can give you that.
Well,
I finally remembered the name.
There was a
Batman cave.
there was a
Yes.
cave out in. No, go ahead, Heidi.
Oh, I was making fun. I said Batman cave.
No, there's a cave out there in Utah that has a famous cave. I believe it was Utah, where the Freemasons met as a lodge. They used a cave, and they have inscriptions
And
on there and stuff like that.
There's a cave. This is a complex. Speaking of a cave,
Yeah.
one way in, one way out, heavily
That's a
guarded.
fancy complex.
That's one hallway of genealogical records. They are the pioneers of putting genealogy online for 23andMe and all these other places to work. So they didn't create it, nor do they own it, but their stuff actually under Howard Hughes Dynamics, under Bill Gay, this company was started and all these computer records started. But also the Nazis came up again because all their little cards that they used to unalive people. Yeah, they got those from, the FBI. They were like, "Hey, can we maybe have those cards now that they're done with them, because we kind of would like them." And they did. They gave them to them. So, yeah.
wow.
They have a lot of genealogy records. And by the way, you all are not safe just because you're not a Mormon. If anybody's maybe related to you, even very distantly, they can do your stuff after you die. Just so you know, you can become a Mormon after you die too. So there's that.
They do that anyway, right? They just go through the Rolodex of dead folks in America and just start baptizing.
They got in trouble. They got in trouble for it because they did Hitler,
we were
and then
doing
they
that for a
did
while.
Jews. Yeah. They did Hitler, and then they did the Jews, and then they did Anne Frank, and then the Jewish people got mad and said, "Stop it now." And then they said, "Okay, we will," and then they did it some more. So now you're supposed to be related.
They did it to Anne Frank. Who's policing that? They couldn't do Anne Frank because the grift can't,
They did it. They did it.
You can't do that. You can't. We got Anne Frank. Wow.
They did Obama's mom.
So Hitler is
Elvis,
a Mormon.
All the famous people. Yeah. Everybody's dead, famous
pretty
people.
sure anyone dead in America is probably Mormon at this point. That's probably.
Now, legally speaking, as far as like the law of the universe with God, I don't think that. I think that's null and void. I don't think that's how it works.
They say
you gotta have choice. You can't just be baptized.
Yes. They say you can accept it or reject it. That's what they say.
Nigga, please. I don't go for that. I don't go for any of that shit. That's not for me.
But they don't baptize for Jesus anyway. They say you're baptized into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I don't remember Jesus being a part of it. So
Jesus is somewhere in the cut. Like, not me. That's not me. No,
I think it's Mammon. With all the money they make and the sigils they have for the priesthood, I'm saying their God is possibly Mammon, but that's all right. Whatever.
I don't know what their gods are. I was going to touch on, wrong one. We had the Met Gala. This is 2019. We had the one from this year. Let's do the one. This is a couple days ago. I think yesterday they had the Met Gala. And, star-studded event where all these celebrities, show up in their best cool outfits, looking nice, looking spiffy. Look at that. Right. Andre 3 Stacks with a fucking piano on as well. What is this?
It's a nice photo.
What are you doing? You got a garbage bag, bro.
He's a Nuwabian. He's of an ancient alien cargo cult out of, technically out of Brooklyn, but they're out of Georgia and many other places. The leader of which is imprisoned in Colorado for a lot of kid diddling and sex trafficking. Wesley Snipes funded it. Real nice organization.
Well, nigga, continue. Continue. What are you talking about?
So, are you familiar with Dwight York, Charles? He's often described as one of the godfathers of hip hop.
I've heard the name, but no, not deep into that.
I guess it'd be more so the godfathers of rap, maybe, perhaps. He was him and Africa Bambaataa. He was the producer. He was a rapper himself. He produced Africa Bambaataa.
Yes,
kind of started that whole
the
movement.
Whole African Bambaataa thing in the city and the whole movement. Yeah, the African nation, all that. Yeah, and of course, Bambaataa got caught up with
the same thing. His mentor, the same thing as his mentor, Dwight York. There, Dr. Malachi Z, aka Chief Blackfoot, aka he's got a number of them. But so he kind of broke out of the Nation of Islam and kind of 3 percenters, I think. He kind of mashed together. He went Crowley-like and mashed together a bunch of different occult philosophies within his likings and created his own system, which became the New Wabian Nation. And they eventually would settle on a 400-acre compound in Georgia, largely funded by, Outkast here, and him and his associate from the band Outkast. They were part of the quote-unquote New Wabian millionaires, as cited by the PR rep for the cult. They built on a 400-acre compound in Georgia. They built an ancient Egyptian city on some mounds, complete with a nightclub in one of the pyramids. Real happening spot.
JJ, is this before or after Andre messed with Erykah Badu? Because I do believe she's a witch, a sorceress. I do believe she's something. There's something there.
I like it. What year was that? Do you recall which year that he was associating with this other woman? I'm familiar with her.
It's got to be late 90s, early 2000s. Let me confirm.
That's it. That's exactly when he was funding this cult. Precisely when he's funding this cult. So he Dwight York gets popped, I think, in 2004, and Wesley Snipes, who is really the biggest financier, he gets popped in, I think, 2006 for tax evasion. They get him for the Al Capone prosecution. They couldn't get him for the kid diddling and sex trafficking.
That's nuts.
Yeah, so that's a good point. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's exactly when he was getting associated with it.
Both influential figures in the blah, 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 romantic relationship, friendship. They dated from 96 to 99 and had a son named Seven Sirius Benjamin.
There you go. There you go. Sirius. There you go.
Wow.
So Dwight York would be really friendly with Process Church member George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic because of their same kind of ancient astronaut Afro theology systems they had. So one of the things that York adopted was they were the mound builders, right? He's descended from the mound builders. He's also half alien, these kind of things. But yeah, that was his cult leader during that time. And if you ever saw the film Blade, if any folks of the interwebs ever saw the film Blade or Blade 2 or Blade 3, that was
Blade
produced
1 was a classic, 1999, Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, Blade 1 was great.
And of course, Chris Christopherson.
That was produced under Amon-Ra Production Companies, owned by Wesley Snipes. That same Amon-Ra Production Companies owned the property of this cult and its security force in Georgia. So this was largely financed by Blade money.
Damn. Okay, JJ, that's very interesting. I didn't know this. That's really dope. So that's what
if it's about the Process Church, JJ will know. Or the Society of Cincinnati.
Yeah. Or just ancient alien cargo cults in general, which both of those qualify. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Wow.
If you want to see their full theology in a musical performance, the 2004 Grammy Awards, Andre 3000 here and the rest of his Outkast crew, they all did a performance of the New Wabian philosophies, and then later had to apologize for appropriating Native American themes.
Is that true? Really? So 2004, you said what?
Yeah, 2004 Grammy performance. The introduction's offered by Jack Black, posing as a very L. Ron Hubbard looking character, which is interesting since Jack Black himself is at least a former Scientologist, if not still.
Yeah, it's all just tied up, man. Nothing's new.
A lot of alien stuff.
It's all just tied up. And here we go. We'll rock this real quick. We'll come back to the Met Gala, but let's do a side. We'll do a little.
If it's not aliens, it's angels. But the angels are probably not what you think. So
angels are the aliens. Exactly. And and we'll
not saying there's not any, but they're not.
Right.
You're not summoning a top angel. He's just gonna laugh.
There you go. There you go. That's Jack Black looking real L. Ron Hubbard like.
Yep.
Here we go. Let's play this real quick. We might not get through the whole thing, but let's just get some of it. So here's Jack Black.
Yeah, you can get the full grasp in the first minute or so.
The eve of the year 3000, Mother Earth is dying. Her hills in the valley, once filled with the beauty of sounds, now live fallow and silent. Music has lost its muse. There's no singing, no dancing, no smiling. You can hear the chanting in the back.
Yeah. They're about to land the spacecraft.
It's Kolob. I saw it.
Well, he did name his son Sirius, right?
Wow.
One can only hope that their arrival will signal the dawn.
There it is. Oh boy.
The natives are definitely restless.
1, 2, 3. My baby don't, but she loves me so.
Look at this nigga's outfit.
Right? Very futuristic.
With appropriation, he would be a dead man now. I'm just
saying. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, they apologized the next day for this. They apologized the next day. This is 2004. Early appropriation.
Look at the feathers and all that. Yeah, dude. And they got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think they got that nomination, if I'm not mistaken. They got nominated for sure.
Sure.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
there it is. Look at that dude in the back.
Got the full headdress.
He got the full thing, and he's black. He's chief, whatever. It's like black Cherokee, or whatever.
Chief, I shouldn't be wearing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly. No, York declared himself a black Cherokee. He was Chief Blackfoot.
Yes. We can't even have the Redskins anymore. So, I'm just saying it wouldn't work out today.
Right.
Yeah. No.
Exactly.
So Jay-Z was got his start out of the same cult and filmed his first music video ever appeared in was at the cult headquarters.
Now, okay, let's do this. I believe so. Diddy, of course, is one of the not the Divine Nine. He's one of the black societies. He went to Howard. He's one of those.
I think he's a Boule, right?
Like Greeks. Yeah, he's one of the Greeks. Exactly. So, the question is, y'all good? Okay, awesome, cool. Yeah. So, he's got that Boule, that black, society connection. Jay-Z, I truly believe. I mean, he's got a snitch on Rock Nation.
Right.
White, I forgot her name. She's like working some exec position, but she got popped for moving blow. Her and her husband were moving like kilos from state to like Colombia and this black, whatever, back and forth. And she snitched on the whole operation. And Jay-Z kind of took her under his wing and all this. But I believe there's a picture of Jay in like what looks like a Prince Hall Lodge, which I think may be AI or staged or whatever. But ever since I've seen that, it always made me think like this nigga's got some connections. And I'm sure, I haven't seen this online, but I know for a fact, I remember this. This nigga talked in front of the UN back in like 2000 and some change. It's like, why is Jay-Z in front of the UN?
Right.
Why? Right. Besides reasonable doubt, what has this nigga done for anything? And what
for the same reason the guy from Titanic is at them all the time. What's his name?
Yeah, DiCaprio, right? Well, I think that Prince Hall photo, Charles, I believe that is probably an accurate photo. So that cult of Jay-Z, like I was mentioning, the New Wabi Nation, they have their own Grand Lodge of Prince Hall Freemasonry that Dwight York is allegedly still in charge of, despite him sitting in Florence Supermax prison for the next couple 100 years.
And Jay-Z's also mixed up with the oh my goodness, the
Nexium.
The Nexium, but the it's not the Islam. It's like a branch off of Islam. Why am I forgetting this? Wow, it's totally Lord Jamar is involved in it too, but Jay-Z is just like, it makes me think like, what is this? It's like not wow, it'll come back to me, but
more
the rock diamond stuff that they do, they're channeling, and that one basketball player too. Like they're doing some stuff that they definitely know what they're doing. You can't tell me they don't know what they're doing. I mean, he didn't make up no rock diamond. That's baloney. That's an ancient symbol. That's bull.
Is it Moorish Science? Is that the organization you're thinking of, Charles?
Moors. It's like a branch off of the Moors. Wow. I'm totally. It's crazy. It'll come to me. But yeah, no, I'm glad you said the Moors. It's Mos Def was messing with the Moors. He's got that thing there, that Moorish connection. Like I know Makami. There's a couple rappers that are into that it's almost like higher black thinking, if you will, like the woke, but it's a little bit above woke. I don't know what that's about. But the Met Gala thing, interestingly, you brought that up. Like, I feel like it's that group of people. And for this Met Gala
Right, that ilk.
specifically, theme,
Right.
and this was the theme, it was like early 1900s, like black, like Harlem, like wearing these two-piece suits, multi-piece suits, like, yeah, you know, that was the thing. And it's like, what are they trying to channel? Like, what are they doing? What are they going towards? Because the old Met Galas were all about weird satanic type shit. They were all about weird Luciferian-y type things. So what is the push for that? And this is what we see today. Like, this is part of our culture. So how much more of that is there, do y'all think?
I think a lot. And it's, again, this is these folks' religion, if you will. So Jay-Z's tied up with a different ancient alien cargo cult too, with NXIVM. He was in deep with Bill Clinton's best friend, who's NXIVM's chief legal counsel. They tried to shake down some folks for a Racino racetrack there in New York, and both almost got busted. Homeboy, I think, lost his law license over it. Clinton's friend, the chief legal counsel there. So Jay-Z's got some interesting backgrounds when he gets involved in these things. So I think when you're talking about these ancient alien cargo cultists, and you're talking about channeling things to these weird, large public ritual things, I think it's as weird as it sounds. It's probably weirder.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely. And it's not just the Mormons, it's all of them, like JJ said. And the thing about it is what do we find in every single one of them? Like, if you can't agree on who is God, who says that's okay? Oh, wait, I know somebody, and they're all in it. The Freemasons do.
Yes, exactly.
They say it doesn't matter. Just you got to believe in a
you
God.
Just gotta have
no matter what God.
Yes.
And so that is going to be, a critical thing with the New World Order organization, is they're going to use that to their advantage to bring these people that seemingly cannot get their shit together and get together and love one another, like Jesus said when he came back. That's like the only rule that stuck after the end, right? Like, love one another.
Sure.
We can't figure that out, but but we can figure out all this confusing. We're gonna throw signs and make red leather shoes and do all this crazy cargo cults. But hey, whatever. Let's not love each other, for sure.
And as far as P. Diddy goes, like, he gets off the hook for not being recognized as basically an extension of the Bronfman Rothschild operation, because it was Edgar Bronfman that rolled him up in their ownership with that deal with Bad Boy Records back in 2005.
And boy, does Bronfman go back far.
And if you want to talk Bronfmans, that's who was financing the NXIVM cult. Edgar Bronfman's sisters, Sarah and Claire, and one of them walked. One of them went to prison for 7 years. One of them walked.
Bronfman was financing some other things too back in the World War II, but that's okay. We'll leave that alone.
They're basically an extension of the Rothschilds. I mean, this is fairly easily demonstrated with their banking and business activities.
Yes. Yep. So, yeah, it's strange. The one thing I will say, though, I think it's weird that we have all these different pieces. I think there's kings to each puzzle, and I do think they keep a close genetic watch on things. I've told JJ about my genealogy, and I do think they purposely hid royal blood in the bloodlines that they sent to America, probably through the Society of Cincinnati, I imagine, because there's no reason why I, from a bunch of poor farmers, should have right now my 10th great grandpa be the current king of England. Why is that? That is weird. Because Mormons. They hid some stuff in these religions, and it's not just Mormonism. They did it with a lot of people. They did that on purpose, and it's concerning, because I think there'll be a culling one day. And, I think 2020 was prepping for that. They want to know who has what and how much.
Wow.
You asked about Nephilim. Maybe they want to know how much Nephilim percentage we all have. So,
yeah. Wow.
There's something to be said there with these bloodlines, and someone is tracking it. I mean, it's a great point. And it is the Mormons, it is the Society of Cincinnati doing it too. And, and it's easily demonstrated by looking through, like, all the U.S. presidents, except for Martin Van Buren, are all cousins.
He brought himself.
Martin Van Buren's wife is the cousin, right?
That guy brought his own head to the show.
Oh, well, it's Jared Leto. That's how he rolls.
Wow.
This is the 2019 Met Gala.
I was gonna say, I'd like to know what his heritage is. His heritage is, it's I've tried to look. He's got a little bit of a mysterious past.
Bloodlines are everything. These people want to know. And I mean, yeah, it's weird.
Oh,
It
Leto's in
gets
the cult. Don't get me wrong. He played a Joker. Anyone doing DC and Marvel films, much like Wesley Snipes, as I was mentioning in the Blade films. If you're starring one of these films, you're in the cult. You're in the cult. That's obviously
Look at this astronaut over here, Katy Perry.
weird.
Yeah,
it's a brave
China's a
astronaut.
burger. Wow.
yes.
You know,
That's
you gotta
that's a
be
British
whole
fella, right?
nother
Harry
level
something.
of
Harry
weird.
Styles,
Harry
yeah.
Styles.
You gotta be
Wearing
a
a
whole
dress,
nother
huh? That's
level of
the thing, huh?
strange. Yeah, I
Like,
guess.
what is this? Like literally, it's like this is happening. Okay, talk about lifting the veil. This is happening
Right.
broad day like this. Like, what is this?
Right.
Like, bro, like what? Like, how would you look at this guy right here? Look at this dude. That dude's looking at him like, my nigga, what are you wearing, bro? Look at him.
Right.
He's like, bro,
That's
what?
because he's normal. He's like, oh my gosh.
Exactly. He ain't got
Same
lizard
with the
juice.
piano back guy and this one too. Like, oh,
This-
he's
what
half a
is-
girl today.
Half a girl guy.
No. Well,
Like-
that's Angel. This is actually showing, angel worship back to cargo cults because they are neither male nor female in heaven. It says this. It says they
Sure,
can change their sex. So, yeah.
Reconciliation of opposites. That's the chief principle of the process church.
Yep.
Wow.
Angel worship.
Hermaphroditic symbol. That's why it's used by the Satanic Temple, which are an extension of the process church. They have their own, P scope there. It's like the E meter from Scientology, but it's the P scope. They seem to be an
Wow.
extension of this. The guy that runs the Satanic Temple, he just happens to run the website process.org. Just happens to be deeply involved with the Neo process and have a process church tattoo. But you know what? The process church disbanded in 1974, and everything I'm saying is Looney Tunes, clearly.
Clearly.
Dude, like
Clearly.
what you're saying, it's crazy. Like this reminds me of I was reading the other day the Kabbalion. I was just kind of getting into some of that stuff, the principles, and gender came up, and it talked about everything having that dual. You have the male, female. You have masculine, feminine tendencies. That doesn't mean you're a woman if you're a man, or vice versa. It just means there's certain energies. Physical things have that. Spiritual things have that. And it made point to say like, this doesn't mean it's that perverse nonsense. Don't take this to mean when I say something masculine has feminine to mean this right here. It's not half, 50-50. One side is chick, one side is dude. It's like you're perverting something that's clean.
It's not literal.
It's like you're perverting something,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
The great perversion, that's what I call it. Like all this is just literally pervert. Like God has an
That's
image,
pretty
God has
perverted.
a plan. And this is just
More angel worship right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Unless it's a butterfly and that's
There you
still
go. Right there. Yeah.
ISIS. Yeah,
ISIS, right? Yeah.
Rihanna's tattoo with the ISIS, all that. It's the same thing. Look at this guy. This is like Hunger Games, y'all. Like this is just what it is.
Yeah, this is never normal walking down the road.
That's exactly what
This
I was
is-
thinking. It's like Hunger Games, right? And you know where that book was written? You know where that author lived? You know where she was from? Where
Oh,
she
Nice
boy.
wrote
skirt,
that?
boy.
Oh boy, where's that? You like that?
Sandy
You like
Hook,
that?
Connecticut.
One of
No.
those. Okay, wow.
Sandy Hook, Connecticut.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great, we just interesting place to be. Write a dystopian book about, confusing the masses and control, and you come out of,
About a bunch of kids killing each other, and the same time the film comes out is the same time that incident happens, right?
Yeah,
The twins that never really did anything with their life after their show, right?
Well, in the film,
That
you got
last-
kids killing each other. It just
Oh
it's
yeah, no,
strange,
that
yeah.
last picture he showed was Mary
Oh
Kate.
yeah,
and,
it just
whatever. Yeah, Olsen.
I always wonder when those things of reality and fiction somehow intersect like that. It's always strange to me.
Something was wrong with the Olsen twins.
Seems
That's
like
all
magic
I
is what I'm
say
getting
about
at.
this pic.
They never
Yeah,
had
bro,
kids.
something's
They never
wrong.
got married. Did they ever do anything?
Oh,
like
the
that? I
Olsen
don't think
twins.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, they seem pretty witchy, right?
Super
Very.
witchy. I feel like they're like pawns in like a witchy thing. It's almost like twins. Something about like twins.
Right.
Like there's some kind of energy. Let's use them. Let's
Well,
yeah.
Ask Mangala about the twins, but we better not go.
And
into that.
one of them's married. Sorry, apologize, Heidi. Didn't mean to interject there.
Oh, no. I just said Mangala.
Oh.
Ask Mangala about.
I was gonna say, well, I heard some Nazi stuff. I like to hear Nazi stuff, so that's why I didn't want to miss it.
Yeah, let's jump in, whatever.
One of them, I don't remember which one. Her brother-in-law is the former president of France. He was married to the brother of the president of France, and that president is the same guy that got charged with Hillary Clinton and Merck and Gaddafi. They actually charged him over there. I don't think he went to prison, but they actually at least charged him over there for taking a bribe and then Merck and Gaddafi.
Wow.
I'm telling you,
Yeah.
bloodline.
Kind of a weird trajectory for the Olsen twins, right? They married the brother of a French president.
Wish.
The other one was called when Heath Ledger died. She was called before anyone else, which again I find that odd. He played the Joker in a different Batman film.
Mm-hmm.
No.
And their younger sister plays the Scarlet Witch in the Marvel films. That's their younger sister.
Oh, really?
I bet there's a bloodline there if we look into that.
Elizabeth Olsen. Yeah, that's a well. Now that you're mentioning them, they sound Irish. I'm definitely gonna be looking this up.
Yep.
Very
I'm
interesting.
assuming.
Wow.
Weird.
Yeah, super weird. And she's a witch in the Marvel movies too. The Scarlet Witch.
Yeah,
so
the Scarlet Witch, right?
Damn. It's a family thing, you know. You know they say just don't worry about working, just do what you love and the money will follow, you know. Do witchy shit and the money will follow, you know.
Right.
No, but we talked a little bit about, and we'll wrap it up here soon. I'll let JJ kind of wrap it up. But I know you had some stuff to share, which sounded pretty cool. But before we get to that, and this is my last thing here, Catherine Austin Fitz, of course, went on Tucker to talk about some interesting things. And this touches on what y'all talked about, these like underground bases. And again, talking about occult knowledge. Occult means hidden or something that's just not out there. You know what I'm saying? So what do these people know that we don't? We get into things like the Adam and Eve story. Okay. If folks don't know about that, the cataclysmic event, it's almost like the Deagle report where 70% of the West essentially gets wiped out. Like, where are these projections coming from and why? Why are you building bunkers and shelters? Why is this happening in such a large scale? Yet it's almost like, just life as usual. You know, we're getting commercials in New York about, get inside in case there's a nuclear blast. Why the fuck would you talk about nuclear blasts in New York City? Like, that's not normal. Why is this a thing? So let's hear what Catherine has to say. And this was on Tucker, CIA Tucker. So she got to at least put the message out there. And I hope the normies, I hope stuff like this lifts veils. We talk about lifting veils. I hope her words reverberate in some way for people to understand and get it and wake up. Okay, so let's see her thing and let's make some connections here. Whoa, let me turn the sound on. Okay. Oh, you know what? Hold up, Lo. I got to share it from a different browser because this one doesn't do the audio. So let me go to my other browser.
I made to add something here on that point there, Charles. You know, Tucker Carlson, I agree, you know, super spooky, but you know, sometimes, and I'm not by any means being an apologist for the spooks, you know, anything otherwise. I call them the lack of intelligence agencies. But his father was early on in fighting the trans agenda that seemingly has been plaguing America. Old Dick Carlson was a journalist who was outing professional tennis players as being men back in 1972 or 73. So I think it was that early. So, you know, these things, you know, sometimes, you know, they have commonalities that serve a good purpose, is what I'm saying, I suppose, upon occasion.
Yeah, let's do this.
But there is a history of near extinction events. And one of the things that I've looked at, because I'm trying to figure out, you know, between fiscal 1998 and fiscal 2015, there were 21 trillion of undocumentable adjustments in the U.S. government. If you go to our website, missingmoney.solera.com, we have years and years of documentation, including the government financials that show this. And so the question is, where's all this money going? And one of the things I've looked at in the process of looking at where all this money is going is the underground base and city infrastructure and transportation system that's been built. And
I'm sorry?
Yes. So we have built an extraordinary number of underground bases and supposedly transportation systems. Some of these are a record of, some of these are documented as part of the national security infrastructure. I think there are many more. So
in the United States?
In the United States, on all over the world. But from 2021 to 2023, I took one of the smartest subscribers in the Solari Report network, and he and I spent 2 years collecting all the data and all the allegations on underground bases. And then we systematically went through and tried to estimate our guess. This is totally a guess of how many underground bases, both underground in the United States, but also underground under the ocean around the United States. And our estimate was 170 with a transportation network connecting them.
And what would be the purpose?
The purpose, if you thought you were going to get a near extinction event, so there, to me, there are two purposes. You have so many activities going on that you need to keep secret, that you're basically building the capacity to, for example, if you're doing a secret space program, you need to platform it from, things that can't be seen. But I think if you're worried about a near extinction event, that's.
So I know nothing about this other than my only window into it. I knew a contractor who worked on one in Washington, in the city of Washington, D.C.
Right.
And I remember him telling me about a power box, like a transformer box on Constitution Avenue, that he told me, because he worked on it personally, was actually the exit, the egress from White House. That was kind of by vehicle. I thought that was, I was like, really? He goes, oh yeah, no, I installed it. I know. And I thought, well, that's kind of crazy that in the middle of this big city where I lived I was on Constitution Avenue every day, that you could build something like that without me knowing it. Under the VP's house at the Naval Observatory, same thing. I think most people know that. Next to my brother's house on Macomb Street in DC. But that's, I always thought that was like preparation for nuclear war. Like, I didn't really think about it that much. Some of it
is, it's preparation for catastrophe.
So, but you think that there are facilities like that in other places outside DC?
Oh, yeah. So if you're interested, we have a great interview. I did an interview of Richard Dolan on underground bases on the Solari Report. And it's sort of an introduction to the topic. And it's based on a lot of the research of a guy named Richard Souter, who is very hard to interview. So Richard kind of went through all the material. And clearly it's, I don't know if you ever saw, Washington Post did a project. It was in 2010 or 12 called Top Secret America. And one of the reporters, it was a team of 2 reporters, one of them put together a database of all the different top secret installations that had been built in the country, including since the Patriot Act. And what you saw was just this explosion of money in building so many, both underground and above ground facilities.
So any thoughts on that bases underground? Now, Bill Cooper's been talking about stuff like this for years, since the 90s. It's nothing new. There we go. Yeah, Bill Cooper's been talking about stuff like this for a while, like these underground bases, alien ships, spaceships, things coming out of water, things going underground, like we have Skinwalker Ranch, where we have all these areas where there's like high activity, either it's alien, technological, whatever. What do y'all think about that?
Go ahead, Heidi. By all means, please kick it off for us.
I will say this: in most cities, there are underground tunnels. One person that's super interested in tunnels is Elon Musk. He likes to do tunnels at the Boring Company, where he met his Mormon friend, Jared Birchall, who is his financier, which he doesn't have any of the things he should to have that job. But, they're buddies. So he does all that for him. And, they're just building tunnels for Teslas. Don't worry about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mormons like to dig, though, don't they?
They definitely do. There's a whole lot going on. Yeah. With the underground. And I definitely think there's something in there. And Mormons themselves will tell you in the water, because if you go and serve a Mormon mission, you can't go swimming in any natural bodies of water. You cannot go swimming at all in a lake or a river or any of that business. So they kind of know something's up. Just saying.
Now, what do you think about this right here, Heidi?
Oh, what we got here? Oh, yeah, my husband works there.
Connected to the Illuminati and the KKK.
That's because it's owned by, actually, they're wrong. This is owned by the Queen. Well, the King now. And I know that because I know who pays my husband. And so, but yeah, I'm sure the Rothschilds are connected to those people. So yeah. Yes.
Very interesting. Yeah. So all over the country, of course. In DC, I mean, you see signs for tunnels all over the city. I mean, it's, you go over Connecticut Avenue, you'll see signs for tunnels right by Planet, Comet Ping Pong, like where the library is, like that little stretch right by that's like by UDC,
that's
Mary,
right.
like all that. That's all that. Like you see
American University. Yep.
Yeah, that's the red line. The red line. Yeah, you see a lot of that stuff over there. So it's very
it can be seen from space, they say. Now, do I believe they see it from space? No, but they do say you can. That's that big of a open pit mine. So
of a thing. Wow. Interesting.
That's a good. Yeah, I used to live over in Adams Morgan there, Charles. So yeah, I'm familiar with the red line. Yeah, I played
to be over by the zoo.
I used to get drunk at the old Toys R Us there. The that's what I like to tell people. It's the Madam's Organ, the blues bar there.
Yep.
That was the original Toys R Us.
Bro, I was I was in DC for Trump's second. I was there for the first Trump thing, and I was there for the second one. So the first one was like just well planned. It was better. Alex Jones was there. It seemed kind of like he was there with like the Proud Boys, like they were kind of his bodyguards. Just really weird. The second one, as we know, it was a dreary day. It was kind of cold. Like it was mega packed with a lot of people. And I got out of there the moment there was a lady. She looked like military. You can just tell, like when you see somebody who's in the military, like you get that vibe, like built, professional kind of, she looked official. This lady, black ponytail with a black cap, black outfit, black boots, had an Israeli flag with a backpack with an Israeli little flag out of it. The moment I saw that, I was like, I'm going to get on the train. I'm going to Virginia. I'm going to go to a bar. Got to a bar and I saw all that shit on the TV. But it's like, then I went to Adams Morgan that same night and there was a Antifa rally. I say rally and whatever. They just got on the streets, very organized, like in elements, columns, like military. And they just started marching and just because Donald Trump, blah, 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 white people, racist. It's just all that bullshit. Just, it's all controlled. But yeah, the point being Adams Morgan is a very near and dear place to me. Yes.
Nice. No, I lived there for a couple of years. I really enjoy that neighborhood. In fact, I was there this time last year. I was enjoying a coffee there next door at the Tryst next door to Madam's Organ. And it's right outside on the power pole there, the light pole right outside there on the little patio. I saw the only Patriot front sticker I've ever seen. There was a Patriot front sticker there. I'm like, well, this isn't more evidence. This is the fact is inside DC. You know what I mean? Like it's funny. The folks, the Patriot front, the folks wearing khakis. They're all uniform wearing khakis. They all have the same vibe that they're obviously feds or military, like you're describing there. Yeah. They got the bandanas on. They all get out of the U-Hauls, and it's all quite ridiculous, but
it's like, bro, you don't even go here. You definitely don't go here.
Right. This list is interesting though. So we recognize, as this list shows, we recognize all these facilities do exist, and makes you wonder what facilities, exist that are off the books or not on this list, right? Yes. They're not publicly known.
Yeah, a lot of military bases here for us, a lot of those connections. But like you said, what's around here that's not, or what's not on here, period. Like what's not listed, what just totally goes off grid,
For sure. And I can give you an example of one I can show you that I didn't see on that list there, and it's probably not on a lot of lists. And it's of an incident we supposedly vetted, had hearings about, and decades ago, and we all understand, and folks got prosecuted. But if we don't know the stories in these locations, I very much presume still exist and are thriving, doing the same things. And I think this is what you're mentioning before when you mentioned, Charles, that some of the other things that I wanted to discuss, and I appreciate, I won't belabor the point, but I think it is interesting to note these secret facilities, the things we allegedly know about and don't know about, that I presume are, can provide some good, strong circumstantial arguments these things are still going on today, and that is Iran-Contra. So everyone knows about Iran-Contra. It's all said and done, supposedly, right? And all this gun and drug, it was the Mean Arkansas, the cocaine trafficking, the Freeway Rick Ross out there and starting the crack epidemic under this umbrella. Then you had Bob Cocaine Evans' friend, who was the number one guy in the Medellin cartel over there in Florida, and Bob and that's where the good coke was, right? They had to bring that in to make good
Catalina, all that Colombiana. Yeah, wow.
Clinton wasn't playing.
So that's all going on in Iran-Contra, right? But they got guns too, right? Yeah. So the gun depot was largely run out of a facility in northern San Antonio called Camp Bullis. It's an Air Force training camp for military police. I'm sure you've heard of it, Charles, up there. And when you went through basic training, I'm sure you've heard, or maybe even did some training up there at Camp Bullis for ground combat skills or something.
Camp Bullis, yes, for like a couple weeks, maybe a week.
Yeah,
a week, Beast Week, Camp Bullis. Yeah.
I spent a lot of time up there in the MP Academy. We think we did 4 or 6 weeks up there consecutively, but a lot of, because we do all the infantry stuff there in the Air Force as well, besides just the military police duty. So that was the infantry skills training up there. And cool. Within the confines of Camp Bullis is a secret CIA compound that served as the major arms depot for the Iran-Contra scandal. Wow. I strongly suspect, I don't have any direct evidence, but I strongly suspect based on my expertise, knowledge, and experience, that that's still going on today out of that same facility, and the matters of Iran-Contra are still thriving today, and elements that exist around P. Diddy and folks like Sam Bankman-Fried. Why are these individuals sharing the same jail cell, awaiting trials, and why are they sharing the same attorneys, and why do they have connections to the state of Idaho? These are the very strange things. And back to the Idaho kind of Contra scandals, I like to call it now, surrounding what these known as the Idaho 4 murders. This is a story you might be interested in relative to that, Charles. Fairchild Air Force Base, the entire combat arms training section, their security forces, their military police, 7 guys composing that section, all got busted for dealing guns, ammo, stolen guns, stolen ammo, and for somewhere they were getting a very unique silencer that was not within the Air Force inventory.
Wow.
So this is all popping off around the same area up there. And in fact, for some reason, they bring the main figure in that, who seems to have taken a deal and possibly gone into witness protection. They bring him down to the jail just a couple hours south of there, and down by where the murders occurred in Moscow, Idaho, Pullman, Washington. So these feds have a lot of activities going on up there around these circumstances. So, and in fact, even include some of the Iran-Contra people. So Sam Bankman-Fried bought a bank to launder money. Another guy up there is an ardent money launderer that's associated with the scandal and around that area, and that is Leon Black. He's one of Jeffrey Epstein's pals. Ran a big Ponzi scheme on Wall Street. He was directly related to Iran-Contra in the money laundering.
And I don't even want to discuss what Epstein was doing with DNA manipulation. It's quite terrifying.
Well, that's kind of, I'm not saying Epstein didn't diddle kids. I mean, you read the Florida case, it's evident. You read the FBI files, it's evident. But I think a good part of that is kind of the distraction, right?
Yeah. I think he was just part of the club. Like, I think they just have to. And then it wasn't his greatest evil, unfortunately, with him. Yeah.
Let me pull up. Let me get on. Oh, there he's back. I was going to pull up Leon Black. Yeah.
Also,
so Leon Black's paid over $200 million to avoid litigation for diddling Epstein victims.
Sheesh. So he paid that money to keep everyone quiet.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. They called that a new Charles Manson cult. JJ, did it ever go away?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know, right? So so we can get back to that tableau in a minute. But yeah, Leon Black's an interesting character. He's under numerous investigations, one by Congress right now. He runs something called Apollo Global Management, and right around the same time as the murders, the University of Idaho president, who's a Wall Street fellow from the Wall Street area, used to run the world's largest corporate law firm before, taking this unorthodox position at the University of Idaho president, where he went to college there. He's a local. He's from there, but he's got no PhD. He's not an educator in any sense. He's business dude, right? In fact, his law firm was representing FTX in that merger that caused them to file bankruptcy, which then caused the world to learn that FTX had bought this weird rural bank in Washington and was laundering a bunch of money. They got seized by the feds a month after these Idaho murders. So there's some weird kind of connections there. But Leon Black went into business with Scott Green, the university president, and to purchase the University of Phoenix for an exorbitant amount of money. In fact, so exorbitant, this is funny in a very criminal sense. So they created a false third party that they were bidding against in this purchase of University of Phoenix. There was no third party. They made it up. They just ran the fucking bill up against the laws of the state of Idaho, against the laws of the federal government, and against and seemingly against in violation of a lot of regulations. It's probably never going to go through, but they were dead set on purchasing this, and it's really anomalous why Scott Green would hire Leon Black, this ardent kid dealer who at that time had already paid out Epstein victims. It wasn't a surprise. Like, oh, I didn't know you did that. He's like, he had just done that. And Scott Green was like, I got a good idea. Let's go into business together now. They probably go back a bit further in Wall Street and whatnot, but, and a lot of it revolves around FTX. But, Leon Black was the direct connection one of the direct connections from Iran-Contra. The money laundering aspects.
That's nuts. And I like these fun facts. And it's like everything you're saying, all these connections, education and school, Drexel, right? Like just these connections to banks connected to schools, schools to law, all these branches. Of course, Epstein being a part of like schools, Harvard. Like what business does he have being in Harvard? Or Alan, I kept my pants on the whole time, Dershowitz, also part of that whole thing, who's also part of this connection. Black's mother was an artist. That's cool and all, while his father was a guy, a rabbi who turned into a businessman. Right. Kind of like, not the rabbi part, but the businessman, kind of like Dan Gertler, this Israeli billionaire who makes millions a year off of Congolese in Africa, those poor blackies. It's all good. While he makes money from companies like Glencore, he gets like profits from Glencore. While they make companies like Tesla for that sweet copper and cobalt and every other damn thing we need to process these electric chips in cars and whatever the fuck.
Some solid points, sir. That's some very pricey materials they're mining over there too. It's a lot of dough in that process. A lot of cash being transacted.
Yeah. Black's father immigrated to America from Poland in the 1950s, kind of like Benjamin Milikowski, whose family was Polish, Very interesting. Yeah. But yeah, man, these are very interesting points. And then the Diddy connection, let me wrap up with that. Let me pull that up for you as well.
Don't drink anything.
So Diddy makes a strange appearance. So yeah, if I can make a comment on that weird Manson connection. So that tabloid article was printed claiming that Idaho murders were a Manson style murder, like a Manson cult style murder, because it was that bloody. And allegedly there was a message written on the wall, and the law enforcement did remove a portion of the wall early on in the investigation and put it under wraps and took it from the home. So, and that it is the tabloids, but the tabloids do print some facts from time to time, and so they cite some sources there, one of which is a private detective, retired captain from Chicago PD, and some other unnamed law enforcement sources. There may be, so at first glance, I was like, that doesn't make a lot of, maybe that's kind of silly, maybe, right? And then that University of Idaho president takes claim for removing that from all media. So maybe there was larger stories going to get published because in his biography he wrote on how to respond to a crisis, he brags about getting that removed, that article specifically. So, and then past that, fast forward another year, right? So 2 years after the murders, things are, there's all this secrecy of a national security variety, right? With the court case, very unprecedented. Right. And something gets released, we find out there's this very interesting Idaho State police detective who's very integral in the case. She's doing all the key stuff, right? And no one knew about it until things were unsealed, right? She did this early on, obviously, in the investigation. It's just 2 years later, it was unsealed. That lady's name is Victoria Gooch. I like to call her the Gooch.
Oh, and that's unfortunate. Oh,
the Gooch there. Kay knows what I'm talking about. So so her husband is actually the Gooch. She's a Greek lady by ethnicity. So the Gooch, her husband, is a pioneering Mormon family. very influential in that area of
Shit,
Idaho.
is it my family? Shit.
Are you a
I'm
gooch?
just-
Did I just out
No,
Heidi as
I'm
being a gooch?
I'm just a pioneer family. I'm
No,
glad
so
I'm
yeah,
not
there's a number of
gooch.
pioneering families involved in this mix, including one of the surviving roommates, Dylan Mortensen. Her
Wow.
family, also the Mortensens, also an OG pioneering family, and her grandfather was the chief IRS legal counsel for the mother down there in Salt Lake City. So a lot of power too, it
Mothership.
seems.
All these
The mothership.
connections and bonds and
Yeah.
links.
But the
People-
Gooch's father, right? He was a military intelligence officer for the United States Army. He was the protege of Colonel Paul Tate, the father Manson family victim Sharon Tate, wife of Roman
People
Polanski.
need to look into the Mormons before they say they're so nice. Because I'll tell you one thing: they're either in the FBI, the CIA, in drug smuggling, or something. Like they're all. It's like the mafia, to be honest. So.
Wow.
Oh, he froze. I think he froze.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure he'll kick
I'm like,
back in. But that's
yeah.
no those.
There you are, JJ. What were you saying?
Hey, I made it.
Hey yo.
Yeah, I don't know where I cut out, but I made this close my point out on the Manson family. So the Gooch's father is U.S. Army intelligence officer. He was the protege of Paul Tate, Sharon Tate's dad. Him and Sharon Tate's dad, apparently by this woman's own admission, went under. He was with her father when he went undercover to investigate Sharon Tate's murder, infiltrating the hippie community. And after that, they moved to Idaho, where he became the county commissioner for Ada County. So it seems like the U.S. Army intelligence has had some stronghold in that area for a while.
Well,
all these
I'm
connections.
telling you.
That's ridiculous. No, Heidi, I'm sorry. Go ahead. It's crazy.
I was just gonna say, like,
No.
it wouldn't surprise me if they're more white nationalists, we'll say it
Oh,
that
yeah.
way. It would not surprise me, because I will tell you, I was raised in Idaho for my first 12 years. I moved here in 6th grade and I almost got beat up because I stared at a girl for so long. I didn't mean to. I just didn't know. I never seen anybody that different than me in my life. And she said, "Do you have a problem?" And I said, I just never seen anybody with your hair. Can I touch it? She didn't think that was funny at all.
What you
And
said to me,
she-
white bitch? What you
I
said to me,
asked.
white
I know.
bitch?
I know. And I was like, I just, and she's like, "What, have you never seen anybody like me?" And I'm like, "No." And she was like, "Where are you from, you alien?" So speaking of aliens, and then we're best friends. We were best friends for like 5 years after
Nice.
that. So,
What
I
part of
never had-
Idaho?
Pocatello. A lot of
okay.
Native Americans, no black people back then, but my
Sure.
brother obviously made up for that later. So got him a bride from Chicago.
There you go.
That's funny.
My parents were good, but my grandparents had a moment. They were like, "Oh, the fence sitter," but it was okay. They got over it. I was like, "You guys are dumb."
That's funny. Yeah, it's
Oh,
interesting
boy.
culturally, religiously, like all this stuff. How people react to things. Talking about truth, people's truth.
Yeah, it's real. It's real. But I'll tell you, I wouldn't do it unless I asked. I read some of the comments. I would never. I was in 6th grade. I would never just walk up to somebody, touch anybody's hair. But
Different
That's funny.
environment.
oh, yeah,
No, they're
yeah.
way different environment.
Kids.
But JJ, we had, and my kids are mixed, and their hair it ranges from like just weird poofy curly hair type of thing to like
Sure.
super curly Shirley Temple type.
Yeah, that's what my niece has, the Shirley Temple hair.
Humidity is not their friend.
Just no, the hair is all over the place.
No.
Yeah.
Hers is really nice. I mean, it doesn't really get too crazy, but she lives in dry climate mostly, so who knows?
Now, JJ, we'll end with this video. You had one more thing here. If you could give us some info on this. What is this?
Oh, this is sharing this today on Twixter. In fact, yeah. So this is Ashley Banfield, who strangely enough got her start in the O.J. Simpson case in Vegas. A lot of O.J. Simpson case connections with this Idaho 4 case, not the least of which is you were mentioning the Nazis, white nationalists, old Nazi felon himself, Mark Furman from the LAPD. He's often providing commentary on this case. He lives in near a Nazi compound up there in northern Idaho, right by where a couple of these victims are from, including this fella. Lives right down the road from that compound. So this is one of the victims' fathers, Steve Gonzalez, there on the right. and he's talking about the secrecy in this case. And again, it's very unprecedented. I think he let something slip here, talking about. Well, let's play the clip there, please. That'd be
Wow,
great, Charles.
okay.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, here we go.
It says it itself.
That came from the media pressure, and I've kind of heard that came from the media pressure. The media themselves, who had a challenge to the gag order, basically said, this is not something that is in law. Like, gag orders are for national security. Gag orders are not usually for an everyday crime in a state.
Yeah, so I think it's becoming so evident publicly now amongst, a lot of folks are starting to look at where we were talking kind of the beginning, how things become self-evident, right? We're in a time where things are becoming self-evident. I think this case is becoming self-evident, including there's some real normie law tubers. I saw one of them do a video a couple weeks ago talking about the procedural matters in here and the violations of things and this unprecedented level of secrecy. Not to mention the BS case, just the secrecy on its face is very, as the victim's father said there, it's only for national security cases. And I certainly agree. That's why I call it Idaho Contra.
Wow. Very interesting.
And the Mormons are right there in the mix. The Mormons are certainly in the mix on that one.
It's very interesting. Yeah, the Mormon connection is very tight. And it's almost like there's all these organizations, like just like the military, you got different units, different squadrons, different this, different that, but it's all following the same mission. We're all under the same mission, even though
all in the military. Yeah.
Exactly. We're all part of this wing. Yeah, exactly. We're all in the same wing, but then we're in the same group and then in the same this and
Yeah.
But within that, it's like you have the Mormons, and then you have Chabad Lubavitch, and then you have B'nai B'rith,
Catholics,
and then you got Freemasons,
and
then you got the black, section of all these things, and then you have these fake militias. It's like it's all just a gang of fuckery, and somebody's out there pulling the strings.
We're back to Babel, and I postulate that they have seen the angels, that are running this, and each one of the top, right? Like, because you would do anything if you really thought it was like that. If you saw some miracles and all this stuff, and you're there, and you're like all brought together, all these people that fight normally, and they all worship the same thing, and he's like, he or she is doing something that is miraculous, and you're all there seeing it. They might really believe that is God,
Right.
So who knows? People do some crazy stuff for God. We've seen that over and over again in time. So
you get a lot of folks convinced they're doing something for their higher beings. That's a powerful force. It can be a very powerful force.
Yeah, exactly. So I you know what? I'll wrap it up with this before I let you guys, kind of push your stuff. But I had a experience before, like a spiritual experience where ultimately it's like the realization came to me of like the source of power. It's like what's the source of power? It's like, well, number one, you have to exist. Like there has to be a sense of like you need to be able to do action. Action is source of power, number one. Number two, resources. If you have things, money, stuff, you can survive. You can pay someone to give you things. You can live. You have some level of power. But ultimately, the final level of power and the ultimate is the mind, control of the mind. If you can control someone's mind, it doesn't matter what you have, they'll do anything for you. It's like that scene from Conan the Barbarian where the sorcerer, he's talking to Conan, like, yeah, I can make these people do anything. And there's a cliff with a girl at the top, and he's like, come to me, child. And she just jumps off the cliff, and he's like, yeah, that's me. That's the kind of power I have.
Right.
And that's what I feel like these things are trying to do. It's like we have power, we have inherent power, we have our connection to a higher source, God, the all, the creator, whatever. I feel like we're good inherently, but there's forces that push us in a bad direction. And that bad direction is all about taking over this.
Yep.
Without this, there's nothing. Without our consent, there's nothing. We have to consent. We have to go along with it. All these goofies wearing all these pianos on their backs, they consented to that. That's what they do. I don't do that. I stay in my house and talk to my computer and talk to people online. That's what I do. I like to read this stuff. That's what I do. I try to raise my children, have a good life, mind my business, and that's it. But these people have an agenda to ruin that for us, like take us away from God, because I feel like there's truth that is out there that they know that we're not privy to, and they use those things against us.
Yep.
Even though we're all here as the children of the creation, where we're all here, we're able to experience just as much as anybody else, but they feel entitled to that stuff because they're better than us. They're elite. What do
They have
y'all
the
think?
divine right to rule. They have the
Yep.
divine right to rule. And here's the difference between what you just said and what is happening there is we inherently, as children of God or higher power or whatever you want to call it, most people believe we are their children. Okay. And if you think about that, is the father ever higher or less than the son? Is the son ever higher? Not even when he's dead, right? Because that's still your dad, right? Like
Right.
even if he's dead, that's your dad. So these people that want to be God or gods, which is pretty much the basis of all of these alien cargo cults, is they're not going to serve, they're going to rule. And what does Steiner say? What does he say about how to get mentally closer to God? He says, go push an old person on the beach, right? He says, service is the act of becoming better, not being more than someone else. But people get that really twisted. And here's the problem. Those kind of people inherently are in charge of the fuckery.
Yeah.
And
Right.
we that are the servants, happily, I serve as a mom, I serve as a nurse, I serve almost every day of my life, and I'm happy to do it with not a chip on my shoulder like, oh, I gotta go do this and it's crappy and whatever. No, I'm happy to serve another because my heart is in that, because it changes your heart. And then you want to be the servant. You're not obsessed with ruling anything. Like you said, I just want to raise my family, my home, my life. I'm not trying to do that, right? But that's not how they think. So I keep my head in the Bible. I keep my eyes to God, and not to stars, not to things that could give me power. There's enough of those power hungry people in the world. Like, let them fight it out, whatever. It's got nothing to do with me, but I'll expose it until the day I die because they lied to me. You lied to me, church. And you don't lie to a woman because they get mad. So that's what's up.
Nice.
That's
I think
Yeah.
you're spot on, Charles. I think
That's
you're
okay.
spot on there with your analysis for sure.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah. What are your thoughts, like, as far as like, any closing thoughts on that? The veil, the
Yeah.
mysteries, esoteric, then now, anything
Sure.
we cover.
Well, no, I appreciate it. No, I appreciate the invite and the time, and I always enjoy conversations with Heidi there. We do a lot on the occult rejects together, so it's always a good time linking up for more Mormon talk. And that's something we've discussed. Heidi and I have discussed, regarding the Mormons and some of our views on it, and what regarding your analysis there, Charles. That's kind of what we've discussed is what's going on with the Mormons. Some of our beef there is that the Mormons are aware of this inherent innate abilities folks have, and they're harnessing it and using it for their own methods and ulterior motives, right? So they're going through these rituals and procedures and not telling people the meanings and purpose and reality of those actions, and how they're really using those actions to harness that energy for their own purposes, and not and restricting us from doing our own, achieving our own ends, despite no matter how many planets they offer you.
Or wives. But JJ, thank you. And Charles, thank you both for being with me today. I appreciate you guys. I didn't get that part in. Thank you.
Yes, no, appreciate it, folks. And yes, no, go ahead. Let's start with Heidi. Of course, ladies first. Heidi, tell the folks where they can find you. Where can we get a hold of you?
Sure, of course. I'm Heidi Luv. I'm everywhere podcasts are served. I'm of the Unfiltered Rise podcast on YouTube because they hate me. You'll only get it like once-ish a week. You'll find me better on Spotify or Podchasers or at unfilteredrisepodcast.com, where I update it there. I do have a Patreon. You'll get extra episodes there. They're a little bit different. They're about Mormons, murders, and mayhem. So if there's been some fuckery about, you might find it on that. It's a fun little extra piece because I don't like cutting my episodes. I'd rather just give you something extra because I think that's better. So at least for me. And as always, always, I am an occult reject, and I'm happy to be with JJ always. And Charles, so nice to meet you. Thank you.
Likewise, Heidi, very much. I appreciate your story. Very unique, and it's really good to have you here. You could be anywhere in the world wearing, those goofy underwears. We
My green
know,
apron.
yeah, exactly. With your husband with his junk compartment in his clothes.
Oh man,
Here
he's
you
smarter
are.
than me. He never did that. Yeah.
JJ, where can we find you and your amazing work and your brain about the Cincinnati Society and all this? Where can we find you?
Well, Charles, once again, I appreciate the invite. Great to meet you again, sir, and always great to meet a Air Force veteran and fellow fish fan. Again, I not so much a fish fan, but I appreciate the fish aspects and the whole atmosphere up there in Burlington, which produced this band. So that's I love that town. So it's gone to hell and back, and it's a 200% increase in homeless population there since 2020. But hopefully there'll be brighter days in the future. But it's gone way downhill.
Hopefully, damn, that's nuts.
Yeah. But yeah, JJ Vance, not the vice president, host of Operation GCD, live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on YouTube, Rumble, Twixter. And Friday nights, I do Fridays with Nick from the Occult Rejects, and we do just a conspiracy culture roundtable with whatever guests we have on that week. And this week's going to be very Bob Cocaine Evans related at Operation GCD, playing a game tomorrow night. 6 degrees of Bob Cocaine Evans. It's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. In fact, I'm really helping Kevin Bacon out. It's more of a make a wish for Kevin Bacon. He asked for a new culprit for the game, so I bring him new culprits. Usually it's Charles Manson, but I'm going to focus on Charles Manson's buddy Bob Cocaine Evans tomorrow night, and then Friday night we got a astute researcher named Philip Z. I can never pronounce his last name, Cesaro. I think is how I just butchered it, but he's very well knowledgeable in the areas of the mafia history, and strangely enough, he even dropped some new Bob Cocaine Evans facts on me I was unaware of. So that'll be an exciting conversation on Friday this week, at least. That's very Bob Cocaine Evans conversations. Now it's different than Bob Evans, the Sausage King of Ohio. That's why I like to differentiate the two different Bob Evans. Plus, I also like to respect the dead. And Bob Cocaine Evans, the infamous Hollywood producer, Process Church member, he declared himself the nickname Bob Coke. He said he would forever be known as Bob Cocaine Evans, and I said, "Yes, sir. I'll grant those dying wishes of yours, and we'll make that happen."
There it is, and you're holding it up. That's awesome. So yeah, folks, thank you, JJ. The chat, it was awesome having everybody here. You guys brought a nice group of people. It's great to meet like-minded folks. So you can find me on the Eyes and Ears show, of course, Rumble, where we're at right now, on X, Twitter, AM wake-up shows Monday mornings with Steve Poikonen, 10 on the East Coast, 7 on the West Coast. Figure out where you're at. Figure out where you're at. Wow, it's 11:37. It's that time. I gotta go, folks. Thanks for joining. We'll see you again. Thank you very much. Peace, y'all. And let's end with the tune here. Let's end with something nice. Perfect.